Hello, 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 folks. How we doing? I hope everyone is having a good week so far. It's already Wednesday, right? Yeah, it's Wednesday. How's everybody doing? Hey there, Renzi. Hey, real Scotty, welcome in. Hey, Lalo. Yeah, I have to agree. That's that and the little note taking one are right up there with the best emotes, definitely. There's actually more of them in the pack, in the emote pack that I got. So I might rotate them out occasionally. We'll see. Hey Mel. Hey Goofer. That's a good one too. Yes. It's kind of hard to use it in chat without sounding enraged, but it does come in handy occasionally. Definitely. I also love that it's animated. All right. Hey, keep your horns on. About to do some work on my 100 hours project, but I'll be sure to check out this VOD at 2x speed later. Thanks for all you do to dive deeper into these concepts. Yeah, no worries. I hope you get a lot done on your 100 hours project and catch me at double speed later on. Absolutely. Oh, that was loud. Sorry. Hey, Rascal. Thank you for the raid there, my friend. How's it going? All right. Welcome, welcome, everybody. Hi. Hope y'all are having a good day. Thank you for the raid there, Rascal. Um, Rascal raid indeed. Welcome to the stream. Yeah. So today, what we're going to be doing is we are going to be um, reviewing the binary upload boom social media app from 100 devs. And we're going to be focusing on a couple of specific components. We're going to be focusing on the middleware and the models and the schemas. And so, kind of how those things help facilitate how the app behaves and how it runs. Good evening, time of day, everyone. Yes. Hope everybody had a good day. All right. And so, yeah, we're going to be, we took a look at this. We took a cursory look at this code on Saturday. Um, and so you're welcome to check that stream out as well. But tonight we're going to go a little bit deeper and cover some of the things that Leon talked about last night. Rascal says, going well, got the Express MVC tracker working and at least viewable by people without having to install. Nice. Yeah, that's a pretty cool tracker. If you haven't checked out Rascal streams, they're doing some neat stuff. It's really rad. I couldn't understand most of what Rascal was doing, but it was fun watching this stream while debugging my own app. Yeah, Rascal does some wild stuff. Okay, I'm just pulling up the GitHub here. So if you haven't already forked Leon's code, I'm going to find it for you here so you can fork it too. We went through the whole forking process on Saturday, so I'm not going to do that again. Again, if you aren't sure how to fork and clone this code so you can use it yourself, hint hint, I did a stream on that on Saturday, so might want to rewind a little bit and check that one out. All right, change my screen here. Okay, here we go. So I'll share the link. This is the link to the code that we're going to be going over tonight. Binary upload boom. And we've been talking about it in class a little bit, but like I said, we're going to go a little bit deeper into some of the middleware, some of the routes, and reinforce, how schemas work. Oh, got to turn on my closed captions. 2 seconds. Get that sorted out. I always forget. Okay, captions should be firing up here. Yep, captions are on if you would like assistance from the captions. Yes, the stream closed captioner is a bot. Yep, it's a very helpful bot because I often forget. All right, so any questions before we get started? DevD, you finally made it in time. Yeah, I want to give folks a couple minutes to get in here because I know that not everybody can get in immediately. So, hey, Jojo. You made it, Skeeta. That's awesome. Hey, Gavinter. MME, really, if you have trouble forking and cloning code and doing things like setting up your env file, if you're not quite sure how to do that, I go over it in a lot of detail in the Saturday stream. So it just depends on your comfort level, really. So we're going to still cover that tonight. We're going to still go over briefly how to get up and running, but we're not going to spend a ton of time on it. Hey, DriveNet, I'm so behind, but I want to learn. That's a good attitude. Behind is relative. Hey, back into balance. I'm not going to say that I'm a Cloudinary expert. I know what Cloudinary is doing in general. And I know that it's hosting our images. And that's about the extent of what I know. And I know how to find the keys and such. So, oh, Kasava, thank you so much for the resub. Thank you. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much, Kasava. But yeah, I mean, once we get there, if you have a question back into balance, I'm happy to answer it for you. I feel like at this point, we don't want to get too in the weeds as far as like all the details of these middleware things that we're working with. It's more about how do we use them? How do they incorporate into this app? And do we understand, what they're for in general? Yeah, exactly. And Leon said he would talk more about Cloudinary in more detail. So tonight, really, we're gonna see how it fits in, and we're going to see where it fits in, and just kind of see what just how it interfaces with the app. Really, that's what we're going to focus on mostly. Oh, okay. Yeah, we're only gonna focus on how Cloudinary works within the app that we're looking at tonight. We're not gonna branch out into anything else outside of this specific app and how it's using Cloudinary, because we don't want to get too distracted, I think, at this point. But yeah, that's cool that you're doing the tutorials. Um, DevD asks, how demanding is your day job? Coding takes part. Coding takes most of my hours in a day nowadays. Does it get easier as you get more proficient? Well, I would say that, once you have a dev job, there's going to be a lot of resources at your disposal. You're going to have repositories. Your employer is going to want you to be able to churn out product quickly, right? They're going to want you to be a quick contributor. And so you're not going to have to build things from scratch. You're going to have code snippets. You're going to have Git repos. You're going to have resources at your disposal that will help you with that. And you're going to have documentation too, like saying like, all right, here's how we do things. This is how you should do it. And that's going to really be helpful. That's what we have at my work. I spend a lot of time, we always say, Leon always says, copy and paste, build with Legos. And that's really what I do at my job. It's just knowing what Legos to use and when. I do a lot of copy pasting, a lot of building on existing code. And so that's a good skill to be comfortable with is knowing what to copy paste and when. Hey, Ryan, thank you so much for the sub. Thank you, Ryan. I appreciate it. KT says, yesterday I used your previous to-do list stream to add an edit option to the app. Oh, that's rad. Yeah. Tweaking it a little bit, seeing what you can mess with. That's a great thing to do. Hey, piece of shoot. Hey, Swan. I'm sitting here waiting for stream to start, not realizing what time it was. Sometimes time gets away from us. Yeah, and so the homework is really just walking through it and adding comments. And we're not gonna go through every single line and add comments tonight, but we are gonna just reinforce and learn more about what these components are doing so that you can start to add comments on your own. And then on Thursday, Leon is going to be adding comments. We're going to be adding comments as a class. So we're not going to go through and comment every line tonight, but what we are going to focus on is a couple of the specific routes in the app and how the middleware works with those routes. Yeah, and Tame Mister, I'm not even sure 100% sure what that comments thing was about, as you say. So we're just going to focus on what we're going to focus on, and we'll be fine. We've been grinding for 8 months. That's right, we have. That's wild, isn't it? For those of us who started in January, we've been at it since January, and we've made some incredible progress for sure. Okay, so looks like we got a fair number of folks in here. OG January crew. Oh, okay. So adding a feature where users can comment on posts. Yeah, so we're definitely not going to do that tonight. All right. So yeah, looks like we've got a fairly good number of folks in here. I'm sure more folks will trickle in as time goes on, but we are going to go ahead and get started. And I will, last thing before we get started, I will say my phone might ring at some point. If it does ring, I'll just have to take that call and we'll just take a break for 15 minutes or so. Don't know if it will, but if it does, no big deal. We'll just pop off for an unexpected break and then we'll resume once we can. Okay, so if you're familiar with forking and cloning, you should just be able to fork this code and clone it down into VS Code, which I have done already here. We did that on Saturday. Again, if you don't know how to do this, check out my stream from Saturday. We spent a lot of time on it. Request BRB screens with pictures of your fosters. Yeah, I can put something like that together. Okay, so this is the code here, clone down. And when you first clone down this code, there's going to be so when you first clone down this code, what's the first thing that you should do if if you see a certain type of file in the list of files that you have available? Where would be the first thing that you would look to figure out how to get started if you're looking at this code from scratch? Where should you look? Where should you look first? Yeah, Quinsob, right? Yeah, coming in hot. Exactly. We should look if there is a README file in our code. That's where we should look first. Yeah, and so that tells you exactly everything you need to do to get this code running. Right? Love me a README file. Yes, me too. They're great. Yeah. So it tells you what to do. If you're cloning this code down for the first time, you'll do npm install and you'll create a .env file in the config folder, right? You'll open the config folder and you'll create a .env file. And then add the following. Now, you'll notice that there's a few new things here that we have not added before. These two should be familiar, port and database string. But there's three new ones, which are cloud name, API key, and API secret. And where you get these from is Cloudinary, which Leon has mentioned several times. So what is Cloudinary doing for us? Little quick review here. What is Cloudinary's purpose for us in this app? You don't have to tell me broadly. Just what is Cloudinary doing for us in this particular app? Yeah, exactly. It's dedicated storage for our media, for our images. Yeah, right, exactly. So we're dumping all of our images into Cloudinary, and then we're linking to them in MongoDB, which we will see once we get to the models and the schemas. Yeah, we're storing our images in Cloudinary, and we're linking to them in MongoDB. Exactly, via a URL. And so we're going to see how that works, just sort of surface level tonight as well. Hey, Taco, good to see you. All right. And then so once you've all right, so you need these three keys. Well, how do we get them? You'll need a Cloudinary account, which if you don't have one yet, you're definitely going to need one. So you might as well set one up. So Goventer says, we did not do this with the Traversy Media tutorial. That's true. But think about what were we doing? What was the main thing that we were storing with the Traversy Media tutorial? What were we storing specifically with Traversy? What was the purpose of that app? Stories, which are made of what? What are stories made of? Letters, strings. Yeah, exactly. And so, do we think that like story snippets are going to be larger or smaller than user submitted images? Yeah, they're going to be smaller, right? And so we can kind of afford to store them in Mongo, just all in one place, right? Because we wouldn't expect to exceed any storage limits um, with these stories, which are just made of plain text, or well, I guess text with some HTML tags or whatever. Um, and so images can be much larger. And so we're using Cloudinary as a place to offload that extra space so we don't overload MongoDB. So we're balancing our storage between two solutions so that we're shoving all the images over on Cloudinary and just linking to them in Mongo. So our Mongo database can stay nice and lean and not get too bloated. Purple Per, you enjoyed the Lego stream? Yeah, I was. I wasn't even sure if anybody would tune into that, but no, it was fun. I wish I could have gotten my camera working a little better, but it was still fun regardless. Yeah. So yeah, we're splitting it out, keeping things smaller, speedier. Cloudinary is literally built for multimedia storage. So we're just using what it's built for. Oh, thank you, Code for Dopamine, sharing that little cheat sheet there. That's great. Thank you. There are two selections for product on Cloudinary. Which one did you use, programmable media or the digital asset one? I believe it was programmable media. I'm sure Leon will cover this tomorrow, so um, don't panic if you get lost in the sauce. But yeah, I believe it's programmable media. And so once you do have your Cloudinary account, you can just go to your dashboard up here in the top left, and that will show you everything that you need to know to put inside of your env file. So it literally gives you your cloud name, API key, API secret, and your environment variable. And so there's a little copy paste button here. You can just copy, 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 boop, 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 copy those, and drop them straight into your env file. Now I'm showing you these. I will reset them. You can change them. So I'm showing you them just for clarity, as usual. So please don't touch my stuff. I trust you and I believe in you. Um, okay, so we've got our port, database string, cloud name, API key, and API secret. And these are all the things that you need in order to link to Cloudinary. Inferno says, "Is this how you store photos in MongoDB?" Yeah, I mean, this is an option. We're not storing the photos in MongoDB. We're storing a literal URL which links to Cloudinary, which is storing the photos. So we're just creating a link to Cloudinary, which is storing the photos. And yeah, Code for Dopamine says, Cloudinary even supports resizing video files. Yeah, Cloudinary is a multimedia storage. It's built for that, right? And so it can do all sorts of things to video and photos, which could be really useful when you're building your apps. So I think it's a really great thing to learn how to use. Maybe we're not going to go into that tonight again, but we are going to see how it integrates with the app. So if you're still not quite sure how the relationship between MongoDB and Cloudinary works, that's totally fine. We are going to cover that more as we actually look at the schemas and look at that middleware. No more CSS resizing photos. Well, I won't go that far, but we can dream, can't we? Ryan says, I love that everyone's excited about learning so much. Yeah, it's a great feeling, isn't it? It's a great feeling to be excited about learning something new, especially since many of us are adults and we may not always have that opportunity to learn new things. So it's cool to be excited about that. Thank you for the follow there, Playerovsky. Okay, so inside of your env file, you need these 3 things in conjunction with your database string and your port. Now, we are using Mongoose, right? We're using Mongoose. So what do we need to also change about our database string itself? What is different about our database string than the way we used to do it? What do we need to add? Or if you don't know that, what do you see that's different about my database string than it would be if you just copied it straight out of the MongoDB, MongoDB.com? What's different? Okay, yes, you need the password, but we've always done that, right? We've always done passwords. What else do we see in here? What is this? Social app. Yeah, social app. What is that? What is that? What do we think that is? Some folks are guessing collection name. Some folks are guessing cluster name. Some folks are guessing database name. Cluster, database. I wonder what it is. Yeah, Lucas says, by looking at your ENV, I noticed where I went wrong in mine. Yeah, that's why I show it. Some folks are like, why are you showing your secrets? Ah! But I feel like I have to. Otherwise, this is where like 95% of people stumble at the first hurdle is they get this wrong, this file. So, hey, I am Amasa. Welcome. If somebody has the repo handy in their clipboard, if you could just post it in chat, that would be great. Thanks. Okay, so we've got a lot of guesses here. Let's see if we can figure out what this actually is. Well, this right here, I'll give you a clue. This right here is my cluster. Okay, so I'm logging in, username, password, cluster. So we've gone over several times the hierarchy of a MongoDB database. So what do we think comes next after cluster? If somebody wants to list out the entire hierarchy in chat, see if you remember it. But okay, so we connect to our cluster with our username and password. And what do we specify is next in the hierarchy? Yep, so the hierarchy goes cluster, database, collection, documents. So what do we think this is? What do we think this is then? Yeah, now we got folks saying database. All right, so feel free, say in chat, say what you think it is. So we've still got a few guesses. So database, 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 database. All right, so most folks are saying database. Few folks saying cluster, few folks saying collection. All right, so let's figure it out. Let's settle this debate once and for all. So knowing the hierarchy, remember the hierarchy. A couple of folks posted it there in chat. Um, let's settle this once and for all. I'm going to keep going over this every time. So don't worry if you didn't get it this time. All right. So I'm just going to go back to like the home page. Let's see. All right. So what is this? This is my cluster. Okay. So this is my cluster right here, cluster 0. We saw that in the database string, right? We saw cluster 0 at MongoDB. Okay, that's the cluster. So that thing that's in that social app thing that's in the stream, that's not the cluster. I'm going to cross that off. All right. Now I'm going to click Browse Collections here. But that's actually a little misleading. It's actually retrieving a couple of things. What is it retrieving here? It's retrieving both databases and collections, right? Because collections go inside of databases, right? So let's find social app and then we'll figure out what social app actually is. All right, so here's social app. And if I click on social app, I can see that there's some smaller components inside of it. So looking at this structure right here, what is social app? What is it? Hey, Dav, no worries. It's a database. Yes. It is a database which contains what? It contains three what? My database contains three what? Yes. I have a database called social app which contains three collections called posts, sessions, and users. Okay? Yes. All right. So going back to the code here, inside of your DB string, every time you're building a new app with Mongoose, you're going to be specifying your database inside of the database string. Now, even this variable name is a little bit misleading, right? Because we're connecting to our cluster and then we're specifying a database inside of the string. Exactly. And MongoDB, so the MongoDB Atlas online client doesn't do a very good job of using the correct terminology at the correct times, which makes it really hard to remember the structure. And so that's why I like to go over this every single time we start an app, just because folks get it twisted and then they don't know, they don't understand. They're like, wait, but when do I specify my collections? Am I specifying my collections here? Like, where do what am I talking about when, what are we talking about when we're talking about MongoDB? And folks, get it really confused. And so I do like to spend a fair amount of time on this each time. Yeah. Okay, so we are specifying our database. And for this app, we are going to use a single database, right? We only need one. We don't need a new database for every single like users and sessions and stuff. That's what collections are for. Our collections hold those unique data types, right? Yeah, and you copy this, you get this database string from MongoDB. So in your cluster, in your MongoDB cluster, you just go to connect and then connect my application. And that will show you the string. You copy it, you replace this with your password, and you specify a specific database that you want to create. If you're not sure how to do that, I cover it multiple times in a lot of my past streams. So you can definitely check back. I may have even covered it on Saturday. I know I did cover it last week too. Bear sample, yeah. So these are so I do show you my .env file. I change my credentials after every stream. I show them to you for a purpose, and that's because when people are setting up a new app, this is where 95% of people stumble. So I show them to you because it's good for learning. I understand what I'm doing, and I hope that you'll respect that I'm trying to teach, and won't. And I hope I can trust you and believe in you and everybody on the stream. So Live Bull says, I joined out of curiosity and I'm already confused. It's called collection and not table. Yeah, so I take it you come from a relational database background. So do I. I'm a SQL developer, but yeah, they're kind of related. You can kind of draw one-to-one comparisons between collections and tables to some degree, but it's still not relational data. Yep. Iomasa says, are we creating collections inside of a cluster? Nope. So, I mean, they're technically inside of a cluster, but you're missing some levels in the hierarchy there. So the cluster is the biggest bucket. It contains databases, and you'll use one database for each project. So each time we fire up a new app, we're probably going to create a database to hold that information. And then inside of that database, we're going to have multiple clusters, which can contain different data types, such as user data, session data, um, task data, or post data, whatever. And then inside of those collections, we have the individual entries or documents. Yeah, and specifying the database is really the only new thing about this. Exactly. Yeah, I could put a comment in my env file. I don't know that env files support comments though. Rascal, is there a way to put comments inside of an env file? I thought they didn't allow that. Maybe I'm wrong. I could Google it. It's no big deal. Okay, so I'm going to assume that most folks at this point, if they have a Cloudinary account already, that you have been able to grab this information and put it in there and specify a database. Now, pop quiz. What happens if, let's say, you fire up a new app, you're using Mongoose, and you forget to specify a database? What happens if you forget? Anybody know? Has anybody done that? I have. Oh, okay. It's with the pound sign. All right. Thanks, Rascal. Yeah, if you forget to specify a database inside of your collection string, yep, it creates a new one for you, but it's just called test. And so, if you forget to do that multiple times, you could run into problems where it's trying to access a database called test that you've already used for a different app with different information. And so you might wreak a little havoc there. So just remember to specify your database and you'll be fine. It'll just write into the test database? Yes, it will. That's where I screwed up. Yeah, it's automatically generated by MongoDB. Exactly. Okay. All right. So let's keep going. I'm going to assume that most folks have got this set up. If you're planning on running the code, you don't have to. We're just going to kind of explore it in general. So, all right. So after that, based on what the README says to do, after you've finished your env file, all you need to do to run it is just say npm start. Okay, so and if we didn't have a README file, how would we know how to start this app? Where could we look? Where could we look if we didn't know how to start the app? Now we don't need to ask Rascal. Yeah, you can just look in the package.json and look for a script and see what scripts are being specified, and then you can just say, oh, hey, here's a start script. I can just do npm start, and that will start the app for me. So I already have it running. Yeah, package.json. Or you can go, if you don't remember this, you can just go to package.json. Oh, I am sorry. I need to take this call. I do apologize. Hello, this is Claire. All right. So I do need to go deal with something really quickly. I'm going to go see what's going on. I'm on call for work tonight. So a call has just come in. And so we're going to have to take a quick break here. It's been 30 minutes, but see if you can get in the meantime, see if you can get the app running, and I'll resume as soon as I can. So I'm going to put 20 minutes on the clock. It's a bit of a long break. We might not need that whole time. I'll let you all know when I am back. Um, and yeah, I'll be back in a bit. See if you can get the app running in the meantime. Okay, 20 minutes on the clock. Hey, folks, I'm back. Oh, the pleasures of being on call. Hello, I'm just scrolling back through the conversations here. So yeah, we're ready to go ahead and resume. I can't guarantee that I won't get another call at some point. That's just part of the game, right? Um, but hopefully they'll be easy to fix. I'm back from outer space. Database emergency, not really an emergency, just a little road bump. It happens sometimes. All right, and I'm gonna, we'll sort of ease back into it here. Um, all right, welcome back, welcome back. Yes, I can show the env file, and then we'll actually get into the code. Hey, Jack Tree, welcome. I'm impressed so many of you stuck around. Thought half of you might be gone when I got back. Oh, good conversation though. Somebody unplugged the database to charge their phone. Yeah. Okay, let's go back to the env file. If your kitten is a girl, you want to name her Fig? Oh, that's a great name. Yes, you can name her Fig. She is a girl. Um, yes, Fig sounds like an awesome name for the kitten. Okay, all right. So let's look at the NVIDIA file one more time, and then we will get into looking at. There's a couple of routes I want to look at specifically in the code, um, because I think they're really representative of how the whole thing works. Does on call happen frequently? Not necessarily, no. I'm actually on call with a different team than normal tonight, which is why I might actually get calls. I've been on call since I've actually been streaming. I've been on call periodically, but I've never gotten called on a stream. But I actually am not surprised that I got a call this time, just because I'm on call with a different team tonight. Oh, I have an AI redemption. Okay, Ryan bought an AI image, Iron Man cat. Okay, don't let me forget, Ryan. We will do that. We'll probably do that toward the end of the stream, if that's okay. So if you got a bad auth error, then that means your password is wrong. Your password should be right here. It's between the colon and the @ sign. That's where your password goes. So bad auth means bad password. All right. So let's go ahead and get into it. I'm going to show kind of the route that we're going to follow just in the app first. We're gonna follow this route in the app, how it looks to the user, and then we'll follow it in the code, and we'll see how the middleware helps us do what the app needs to do. Really. All right, so let's look at the app. these are all these are all of the images here. This is the main feed. All these images are generated by an AI image program called Stable Diffusion, which I have installed on my machine. These are all AI generated by by a program called Stable Diffusion. And that's actually a channel point reward that Ryan has claimed to have me generate a series of Stable Diffusion images for you. So for 5,000 channel points, I will generate Stable Diffusion images using the Stable Diffusion AI. Her face, I know. I think this was like my prompt is something like a toothpaste commercial. Yeah, that's what came out. I love this one though. But anyway, so this is as if we were starting from the main feed, and this is after I have logged in. So I have logged in as an existing user, and I've logged in as an existing user. And what I'm going to do here is click on the header. I'm going to click on the header, and when I do that, it takes me to my profile. You did regenerate password and forgot to click on update user. Now it's working. Hey, there you go. Nice job. That's the most common thing that happens. Yeah. So when I clicked on, so I started the feed. When I clicked on the header, it automatically took me to my profile. Now, so just thinking about what happened there, I went from the feed to my profile. What are some of the things you think the code might be looking for? Just some guesses of what the code might be looking for in order to display this page. If I go from the feed to my profile. What are some things the code might be looking for, or finding, or giving to the view? There's going to be several things. The user ID, all the user's posts. Yeah. What else might it be checking before it shows me a profile? What else do you think it might be checking? This is a little harder one. Routes. Yeah, it's definitely looking for a certain route. It needs to know what to display. Aha, lost one, got it. It's also probably checking to see if the user is logged in, right? Because is it going to want to show me a profile if I am not logged in? Is it going to want to show me somebody else's profile if I'm not logged in? Right? It's not, no. Yeah. It's going to want to check a few things. It's going to want to check, okay, which user am I supposed to be displaying? Is that user logged in? And what posts have they made? So these are the posts that I've made. And it's delivering, yeah, it's delivering that to me. Right. So if somebody else was logged in, it would show them their feed, right? It would show them their posts that they've submitted. So in this case, it's showing, all those things had to be checked before it even loaded that page. So in the half second it took to go from this to this, it is processing all that information. And so in order to help us do that, we do have some middleware that helps, right? And so yeah, and so there's a lot going on there, which we'll touch on. But now let's look at what happens when we add a post. Okay, so let's say I want to upload a new image. All right, let's say I want to upload a new image. So I'm going to call, first I'm going to find an image to upload. Hang on, I'm finding a good one. Oh, I generated a good one today. I'm gonna get it. Generated a really cool one today. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and upload the image first, and then I'm gonna name it. That I is for my new channel point reward. Yeah, we'll do this one. So what this is a another stable diffusion rendering of a frog. And so I'm going to call it frog and frog. Okay. Yeah, I'll read your question in just a minute. Let's go ahead and get this image submitted, and we'll think about what happens once I submit it, okay? So click submit. I've chosen a file. I've given it a title and a caption. So let's see what happens. Okay, I've done that. It's reloaded the page. It's cleared the form fields, right? And I have a new image down here. It's a very cute little stained glass window rendering of a frog, also generated by Stable Diffusion. And so what do you think? What are some of the things that might have happened there? What are some of the things that might have happened after I entered all that data, uploaded a file, and clicked submit? What are some of the things that we think, just in general, speaking in pseudocode terms, what are some of the things that you think just happened? Yeah, the little frog's pretty cute, isn't he? We're uploading the image to Cloudinary, right? Because that's, again, remember, Cloudinary is where those images are actually stored. We're just linking to them in Mongo. So we're uploading an image to Cloudinary. We're passing user images and user IDs. All the information that the user inputted. We're doing a post request. Image sent to the Cloudinary. The URL sent to the database. Yeah. So where is all of this information ending up? Where's all the information ending up? We're gathering a bunch of info, and then where does it go? Where's its endpoint? MongoDB, yeah, databases, right? Yep, couple of databases. MongoDB for all of the text information, the user, the title, the caption, that sort of thing. And then the actual image file itself is hosted in Cloudinary. Right, exactly. Yep. And then, yeah, some folks said after that we do a refresh to essentially clear the form data here. So all this is set back to zero. And when this page refreshes, right, it grabs all of the user posts again. And so now it picks up this additional one of the cute little froggy. Yeah. Your DB, then back to the screen. Exactly. Yep. So in general terms, that's really what's happening. Whoops, click something there. In general terms, that's really what's happening. And so now we're going to look at the code and we're going to kind of get a feel for how that's actually happening, because that's a lot of stuff, right? That's a lot of information traveling back and forth. It's a lot of information being stored in different places, retrieved, and then sent back. Yeah. And I want to read Goa's question here. In routes posts, I replace the put and delete requests with posts, since we're using forms to input, and disable the override code, the server.js file, and everything still works as normal. The likes still get updated and the post still gets deleted. Can you explain why this still works? And since it does work, is method override still the better way to do it? Yeah. So that's what I call fudging routes, right? Because if you think about what's actually happening to change the data itself, that is happening inside of MongoDB, right? You have mongoose methods that are changing data inside of MongoDB, and those methods are generally very specific, right? They're like delete one or find by ID and update, right? And so those methods do exactly what they say on the tin, no matter what type of request gets passed. So using the appropriate CRUD method is really just making sure that you have the right route going to the right controller. And then, but what the controller does in the end is, using a specific mongoose method to make that change in the database. And so it doesn't change what that mongoose method does. It just changing the type of request just could alter the route. I hope that makes sense. Yeah, and the controller is doing the heavy lifting. Right. All of this is actually happening in the controller. The routes just get you there. Yeah. So I hope that answers your question. Because yeah, we've actually fudged routes before. We've used forms to submit things in previous apps that I've done before we learned about method override. I was just fudging routes left and right, and it didn't matter, right? All that matters is the action that's performed against the database in the end, in the controller. But method override, I think, is still the best way to do it because it makes your code readable and understandable to somebody who's maybe getting into it, and from the outside. If you're working on a team, you want folks to understand what your routes are doing. Yeah. Yep. Okay. So let's look at the code, and we're going to see some of the stuff that I just talked about, right? Yeah. This way we're clear about exactly what we're doing. Yeah. Literally everything but image uploads can be a GET request. Exactly. Yeah. And we've done that before, Rascal, right? I'm sure Rascal was pulling their hair out when about a month ago when I was building that to-do app, and every every request was a put, or sorry, every request was a post. Yep. Yeah. And some libraries may do it differently. Yeah. Okay. But let's look at the code and we'll learn how to do it right. Okay, so first off, I'm going to start off in the views, and we're going to go to so we're going to kind of follow the same route that we did to get here in the first place. So we're going to start at the feed. We're going to start at the feed. We're going to see what happens when you try to go to a profile. We're going to see what happens when you try to go to a profile, and then we're going to see what happens when you upload an image. And we're going to step through each of these routes and see exactly where they go. Okay? So that's the plan, just stepping through routes and then stopping to examine the middleware on the way. As we encounter middleware, we'll stop and examine it. All right, so I'm going to start at the feed. And we noticed that, so feed is this page that we started out on. So feed is this. Feed is this. And actually, I can, well, I don't know. We'll see. Um, Notice that this feed file is fairly small, right? This feed file is very fairly small. That's interesting. Really, all we have here is a container. And what is this? What's happening in here? What is happening here? What are we doing? What are we doing inside this container? We're looping through posts, right? And it looks like it can be fairly simple because we're just showing all posts by all users, right? We're just showing all posts by all users. Every user post goes on this, and really all we're doing is we're showing the images. And we're linking to, we're turning these images essentially into hyperlinks, right? Because we have anchor tags. Our anchor tags are creating a hyperlink to that specific post using the image. Okay, but that's not what we're going to focus on. Um, but okay, that's all well and good. If this container is only just doing that, it's just grabbing all the posts from the feed, then where is this coming from? Where is this header and this subheader coming from? Where do I get this link? Where does this come from that I can click on it? Where did this come from? Because it's obviously not in here in the part that I've highlighted. Aha, yes, it's in the partials. Yeah, it's in the partials. And partials are a fairly new concept, right? Partials are fairly new. But essentially, what they are is code snippets of a page that can be reused and reapplied to multiple pages. Now, what might be an advantage? What might be an advantage of making a reusable, for example, a reusable page header that you could apply to every single one of the pages in your app? What might be an advantage of that? Why do you want to do that? Why do you bother? If I have 5 pages in my app, why would you think I might want to make a partial that contains my page header and apply it to every single page? Yeah, it's dry. Changes would be consistent. Uniformity, exactly. Reusable, yeah. So instead of having to paste your header over and over again on every single page and hope you get it right and hope that if you made a change it will be you won't forget to paste it on every single page, right? Easier to manage, yeah, exactly. Random, totally. Partials are new. Yeah, I believe Leon did touch on it in the last class. We've covered it in the Traversy Media tutorial. We've covered it in a couple of the tutorials that we've done now. So if you struggle with partials, definitely maybe go back and catch a few of those, and definitely do the Traversy Media tutorial because they use partials in there as well. Yep. Can we do it for HTML too? I don't think so. Somebody feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, but as far as I know, you have to be using some kind of a template engine in order to do that. In this case, it's EJS is what we're using here, but you can do it in handlebars as well. We've actually done that for the Traversy tutorial. And so let's look at this partial then, because that's very clearly where that hyperlink to the profile is coming from. React, yeah, pretty much any template engine, I think. So that's so the link that we want, that link to the profile, it's clearly in the partial. So let's look at that. Wow, okay, there's a lot in this partial here. So we can kind of see why you wouldn't necessarily want to have this massive wall of links and text at the top of every single one of your pages, right? I know in VS Code you can collapse things down, but still, if you can avoid it, it's nice to be able to just have all of this stuff in its own separate file and then just link to it from your other pages, right? Yeah. So we've got our links to our style sheets, we got links to Font Awesome, links to Bootstrap, um, all that stuff. And now finally down here at the bottom, aha, okay, here is that link that we were looking for, the link that goes to the profile route, right? So we're creating a hyperlink which goes to a route called profile. Okay. So partials only with EJS? Well, partials only with some kind of a template engine, such as handlebars, EJS, React, something like that, but not with plain HTML, no. Yeah. But you could easily transition your static site from HTML to EJS. Wouldn't be very, it's very, they're very similar in that way. Hey, Henrique. Thank you for the follow. Okay, so let's look at this route. Remember, because what this route is doing, this profile route is doing, is it is taking us from the feed to the profile page. And we already talked about a few things. There's a lot of things that this route is doing in order to validate that you are logged in, to display the items from that only you have posted, and to get your user information. So let's see how that happens. All right, so remember, this is a route. This is not a link to another view. This is a route. So that cat is shooketh. Yeah, that's one of my favorite ones that I've done. I love that picture of the cat with two A's next to the food bowl. Yeah, yes, it's a route, and that's an important. That's why I mentioned that specifically, because a lot of folks get it twisted and they think this is just a link, like, or just telling it to immediately display the page that's called profile. And nope, that's not what that does. This is a route which is going to have to do a lot of stuff before it can ever display that profile page, right? There's a lot of pre-work that needs to be done. Okay, so pop quiz. We went over this on a couple streams ago. So what when I click on an anchor tag on a hyperlink like this, what is listening for that click? Where is the first place that information goes? When I click, where is the first place that information goes? Hey, Syrup King. So the magic of this is, no, you can't see my password. And if you want to know why this is not my password, you'll have to stay tuned. Mystery. Yeah. So okay. All right. So we've got a couple guesses here. We've got a couple guesses here. So some folks are saying server.js. Some folks are saying a client-side JavaScript event listener. How do we tell? How do we tell which? How do we tell which it is? How can we solve this conundrum? How do I know whether there's client-side JavaScript? We'll ask that. How do I know whether there's client-side JavaScript? Yeah. If there is client-side JavaScript with an event listener, if there is client-side, listen to this carefully. If there's client-side JavaScript where we're using event listeners, we have to have a main.js file, right? And where is that main.js file? Where does that main.js file have to be? In the public folder. All right, let's find it. We'll solve whether or not we have any client-side JavaScript just by opening the public folder. Good golly gosh. We don't got no client-side JavaScript. Gasp. Yeah, I should have done a drum roll. We don't got no client-side JavaScript. We only have a CSS and some image storage. Okay. So I'll ask again. When somebody clicks on this anchor tag, where does the data go? Yes, the server, I like that, Dev Quest. The server is always listening. Yes. Yeah, and anchor tags don't require client-side JS. Nope, we can pass a route straight to the server with an anchor tag, just like this. Yeah, server.js. Beep boop, that easy. Yeah, and there's different cases for doing client side JS versus not client side JS, but just know that you don't have to have client side JS in order for your app to function. We can just send it straight up to the server. And we're going to ignore most of this for now. Just know that we're requiring a bunch of middleware. We're connecting to the database because we've gone over most of this before in previous tutorials. So I'm gonna skip most of this. Um, we're using some new middleware called method override, which I promise we'll see. We've got our session. We're initializing passport, but here this is the main part. So if you're trying to trace a route through your app, if you're tracing a route through your app, this is where you start. Okay. Hey, thank you for the follow, Raspy. Yeah, we're sending this request up to the server. Okay, so let's remind ourselves, what was that path again? Well, the path was slash profile. Now we have two choices here. So if the path is slash profile, are we going to be headed towards main routes or post routes? Are we so we have two choices here, main routes or post routes. Where are we headed? Main, yeah. Floydwell says anchor tags and HTML forms really puzzle me. They do things I thought only JavaScript could do. Yeah, HTML is a little bit more powerful than we give it credit for, right? Anchor tags give us links, forms package our data up really nicely, and they can send it straight to the server. And we're going to see that in a minute. We're going to see that in just a little bit later on, how forms can send data up, package it up, send it to the server. Yeah, so we're going to be headed towards main routes. All right. Now, what the frickety frack is main routes? How do I figure out what main routes? That's just a verb. That's just a word. How do I figure out what main routes is pointing to? Where do I find that? If I'm trying to figure out what this means, where do I look? Scroll up. Yep. We scroll up to the top and we look. Look, it's already highlighted. VS Code is helping us out. VS Code is like, look up here. All right. So main routes require routes slash main. Okay, so we're looking in the routes folder for a file called main. All right, so I'm going to open up routes. I'm going to close up views here real quick. Open up routes, and we'll look in main.js. See where that takes us. Okay, so again, we are looking for the path called slash profile. So I see it here. I see this path called slash profile here. What looks interesting, what is, so we've seen router, we've seen router commands before, router.get, router.post, whatever. We've seen those before. What's different about this particular route? What do we see here that's different than some of the routes we may have seen before? What's new or unusual? Ensure auth. Yeah, we've got this new thing called ensure auth. Oh, got a hydrate here. Thank you, Arenzi. I'll have a drink of lukewarm tea. Yes, exactly. And as some folks have said, ensure auth is middleware. We can see it's being required up here. Ensure auth middle is in the folder called middleware auth. All right, so just looking at ensure auth, what do we think that might be for? Just looking at the name, not even looking at the code yet. What do we think this is for? What is its purpose? Vibe check on the user. Yeah, so checks if the user, I think that's a pretty good guess, checks if the user is signed in. Now, some folks are saying authentication. Um, However, at this point, I'm already logged in. So I shouldn't need to authenticate again just to see my profile. So let's see if we can figure out what this is actually for. So we're going to go to the middleware folder, and I'm going to go to, let's see, where am I going? Ensure off, middleware off. Okay. All right, so let's see what we think this might be doing. Um, well, it's exporting something, right? It's taking in a request, sending out a response, and then we have this next here, which we may not have seen before. Just to be sure that you're you. Yes. And I've done a couple console logs here. We'll see what those look like in a second. I did those for a reason. All right, so but let's just go over in general what this is doing. So if rec dot is authenticated, okay, return next, else res dot redirect. Okay, so essentially what this is doing, right, is it's just checking to say, hey, is this person authenticated? If they are, return next. Now, what do we think return next might do? Next is something that we haven't really used a whole bunch up until now. Any guesses on what next might be for? Passes it along. I'm kind of getting that vibe. Pass it, lets them in. Next function. Next function, ensure guest. Remember that we specifically called this middleware only, right? We specifically called this ensure off only. We didn't call ensure guest. So it's important to remember that when we say next, what we're doing is we're actually passing it along to the next piece of middleware in the sequence. So just the next step in the sequence for that path only. So y'all are right. What next means is that we're basically allowing it to continue in the process that it's traveling along. Yeah. So it's not going to go from ensure off to ensure guest because we didn't call ensure guest. We only called ensure off. And so it's going to check and see if they're logged in. If they are, it's going to just go to the next thing in the sequence, which, it could be another piece of middleware. It could be, straight to the controller. It could be a variety of things, but just, hey, go to the next thing. What happens if they're not logged in? What is it doing here? Yeah, it redirects them home. Yeah, so whatever the home route is, we're not going to trace that, but it just sends them back to the home page, hopefully to a place where they can then log in instead. Yeah. And so what this is doing is it's essentially what we call it kick rocks. It's essentially what we call protecting our routes, right? We're protecting the routes to make sure that people can't get somewhere that they're not allowed, right? Have you used ensure guest for anything? No. However, if you want to see how it could be used, you can go to the Traversy Media Storybooks tutorial, and it is used there. So if you do want to see an instance in which it is applied, you could definitely check that out. Okay, but we still have it in case we want to further reinforce our routes and not allow logged in people to wander into a login page that might confuse them, right? So that would be a purpose for that. But anyway, it's checking to see is authenticated using the request information. Now, if you decide that you get curious and you want to console log that request, what you're going to see is the request itself contains a metric ton of information. However, I did want to illustrate console log a couple of specific things to kind of show you some of the data that's being passed through this middleware in this request. I just think it's kind of neat, and it's important to remember what exactly we're saying when we say rec. It's such a short little word, but what exactly are we saying when we say rec whatever? So how does it how does it have the information to check if somebody's authenticated? So I console log a couple of specific components of that rec just to show you some of the stuff that's in there. And so I console log both rec.user and rec.session. And so we can see that both user information and session information are actually stored inside of that request and being passed up through this middleware so it can just check everything it needs to make sure that that user is actually logged in. Now, somebody said earlier, I can see your password. Is that true? Is that my password? It's hashed. Yeah. Technically it is, but it's hashed and salted. Right, exactly. So it's safe. It's not the real password. It's been hashed. Let's hash it out. Yeah. And the session information is also stored in there. So we can see some data being passed from Passport. It's saying that, there's the cookie is here, session expires null, all this session information. And then some information where a user is specified. So Passport user being specified. But this is just a string of nonsense. So how is this session information linked to the user who's currently logged in? What's the link? Can anybody spot what is the link? There is a link between these two pieces of information. What is the link? These two match together visually. Yeah, right. It's the user ID. Exactly. The user ID here, right here, matches to the user that is associated with the current session. That's all it needs to check and make sure that, hey, yep, user wolf2 is currently has an active session, and so we're good to go. They can go through the gate. I'm sure there's other things it's checking too, but I'm keeping things simple. Just focusing on the general concept. What is it looking for? How does it associate the user in the session? And where does that information come from? So yeah, exactly. You're all perfectly right. Um, and IDs are so important, and I want to make sure that everybody understands how they can be used to link things together. So in this case, we're linking the session to the user via their unique ID. So you can use one ID to connect to multiple collections. Yes, exactly. That's why it's so important and so powerful. Yep. Rec has so much stuff. I was surprised I didn't already know how many fingers are behind my back. Yeah, exactly. If you ever want a console log, just try console logging just rec sometime and see what you get, because you get a lot of stuff. Yep, the app.use session added our request.session by getting it from MongoDB. And app.use passport, so passport added our user information. So yeah, it's adding all this middleware is working together to add stuff to the request so it can be used later on by this middleware to make sure that we're logged in. Exactly. Okay, so that's how that works. Just this simple little phrase here is checking to see whether the person is actually logged in. Now we can continue. So let's go back to the route. So we got this path from our view / profile. Okay, we've passed the first hurdle. We've made sure that the person is logged in. So they have permission to view the profile page, but we still haven't gotten any of the information that we need to actually display the profile page, right? So this is the next thing that's going to happen. And we're going to post controller.get profile. Okay, so let's look up here. Post controller requires something in the controllers folder called posts. And we're looking for a specific method called get profile. Okay, so controllers, posts, let's look for get profile. Okay, so we're doing a few things here. It's not very long, but we're doing a fair amount of stuff. We're setting a const here, and we're saying await post.find rec.user.id. Now we've seen that rec is being passed, the ID is being passed inside the request, right? So this is a valid thing for us to extract from the request. And we're basically setting it inside of an object here. So what is that? What do we think this is doing? Yeah, Floyd, we don't have to know everything about sessions at the moment. Just know that they're basically saying whether the user has a valid whether they're logged in, and that their that login can persist for a certain amount of time. Yeah. Yeah, it's finding posts by a specific user ID. Right. Now, finding the post of the user that is currently logged in. Exactly. Yep. Okay. So we have here post.find, and this dot find is a mongoose method that's just basically saying go hit the database, right? Hey, yada yada, I'm fine, I hope you are as well. This is a mongoose method that is saying go to the database and get something. Okay, but what is this? Now we've seen the word post a lot, but what is this? Is it a CRUD method? Because there's a CRUD method called post. Is that what this is? But I thought we were doing get. I thought we were getting information to the from the database. We're not. We're not. We shouldn't be uploading anything here. So what is this? What is this? Hey, play drums. Yeah. So this is not a CRUD method. This is. It's. Y'all are. Yeah, y'all are on the right track. Definitely. It's actually the name of a model. It's the name of a model which contains a schema. Yeah, exactly. And, we got all this terminology that's flying around, and so y'all are on definitely got the right idea. It's a mongoose model which references a schema. Yeah. So which we're importing it up here. We're saying require models slash post. Yeah. No, you definitely get credit. Yeah, because this is difficult to. We're using the word post a lot, right? So we're using post as a CRUD method. We're using post as in terms of like a Facebook post or an Instagram post. And now here we're saying, actually, this is the name of a model, which we're referencing from our models folder. Yeah. Model contains a schema. Yes. Definitely put that in your Anki if you haven't already. Yep. Okay. So let's look at that. Now we're going to pop over there and we're just going to see, all right, what does this mean? So models and post. Okay. So here inside of our post.js, we are creating a schema. And inside of this schema, we're essentially specifying everything that we want each document, inside of our what? What do documents go inside? Hey, Moon Pixel. What do documents go inside? No worries, GovInter. Definitely catch the VOD, sure. Documents go inside collections. Yes. All right. What do collections go inside? Let's reinforce the hierarchy in the other direction. We went down earlier. Let's go back up. Databases. Yes. Exactly. All right. Good job. Okay. So, but here we are creating our schema, which is going to specify the structure of the individual documents that are going to go into our collection. Okay. So we can see we have different, all the different sort of properties inside of here. We've got our title, image, Cloudinary ID, caption, likes, user, and created at. And what's kind of cool here is that a lot of these look the same. They specify a type, and they specify that the component of the document is required, right? So a model contains a schema. Can a model contain multiple schemas? We've only ever done one-to-one so far. I would think that you would probably want to have multiple models, which you would reference at the appropriate time. But I mean, I don't know that. I don't know. I've only ever done one-to-one. So somebody with more knowledge of MongoDB than I could maybe answer that question a little better. But for now, just focus on doing one-to-ones so we don't get, we don't get our heads turned around. But inside of here, we have each of the properties and we can specify different things about them. So looks like most of these are types of strings, right? So we're specifying that each of these must have a type of string, okay? And we're specifying that they're required, right? So if I tried to submit a document to the database via the model, which references the schema, and it was missing one of these fields, some of you may have seen this error. It'll basically say document validation failed. Have any of you seen that? Have any of you gotten like your code didn't work and you got an error in your terminal that said document validation failed? Has anybody seen that? I certainly have. Some of you might have seen that. Keep an eye out for it the next time yeah, Tame Mister has seen it. The next time that you aren't able to post something or something like that, check your terminal. If you see something like document validation failed, that means you're missing a part of the document that has been marked as required. And so Mongoose is literally like, nope, you shall not pass. And yeah, if you pass in an incorrect data type, anything like that, it can cause validation to fail. So we're saying that all of these are required. And here's something a little different that we haven't really seen before. User has a type of object ID and it's referencing user. So what do we think is happening here? Any guesses? What might be happening here? We're setting it as having a type of object ID and we're referencing user. What do we think could be happening here? Just in general, what is it getting? I guess my question is, what is it getting? What is it pulling in? What is it grabbing? It's a user ID, yes. Where is the user ID coming from specifically? What does this ref mean? Ref user. What is it referencing? Yeah, it's referencing the user schema, right? It's referencing the user schema. We have a user schema here. Well, inside of our models folder, we have something called user.js. It can reference that, which is pretty freaking wild. It can reference that. Yeah. So we can make references to other Mongoose schemas. I got one correct. Yeah. We can make references to other schemas right in here. Yeah. Which I think is pretty cool. Don't gotta understand the mechanics. Just know that that's a thing you can do, and it's neat. All right, and the last thing we have created at. It's got a different type. It's specifically a date, um, and it has a default value of date.now. And we've talked about this before, but basically all that's doing is it's saying, hey, if you didn't submit a value, it's gonna submit one for you by saying, hey, this is the default value. If a value is not submitted, it'll submit one for you. And that value is going to be the current date and time. Yeah. So that's all that's doing. And then down here, what are we doing? We're creating a model. We're exporting it. We're associating, we're giving that model a name and we're calling it post. That model has a name called post. And what are we doing here? We just created this schema called post schema. Now, what are we doing here? We're creating a model. And what are we doing here? Because the model and the schema work together. So the analogy that I've used before is that a model and a schema work together. And the model is like the construction worker who's actually doing the work, right? You reference the model, you say, hey, model, come over here. I need you to build something for me. I need you to build a document for me. And the construction worker, if they're building a house, they need a blueprint, right? They need a blueprint, right? And so the schema is the blueprint. The schema doesn't do the work. The schema just says, here's what model, here's what you need to do. You are the construction worker. I am the blueprint. So what do we think we're doing here? We're naming the model post, and we are like DevQuest said, we're giving our construction worker the blueprint. Thank you, random user. Right. So we're saying, all right, construction worker, your name is post. Our controllers are going to be referencing you. So you got to be ready. Be ready, construction worker. We're going to be asking you to build some documents for us. And the construction worker is like, yeah, fine, whatever. But what am I building? Like, you got to tell me what I'm building. And so in order to do that, we say, yeah, sure, buddy. I'm going to give you the blueprint. And the blueprint is the schema. Now, our construction worker is pretty smart. So he's also thinking ahead of time about where to build this house, where to build our documents. And so if we don't tell our construction worker where to build our documents, yes, we chose the name post for our model, exactly. We named it post schema right up here. It's just a variable. Boop, boop. Post schema. That's what we called it. Now, but our construction worker needs to know where to put the end result. It builds a document, but where does it put it? So what do documents go inside? Tell me again. Where do documents go? Collections, right? Now, at any point so far in our code, at any point, have we specified what collection? Listen to that carefully. What have we specified at any point? What collection we're putting our stuff in? No, right? No, we haven't yet. We have specified a database. We've specified a database. Remember your terminology. No, yada, yada. We do not specify collection.env. What do we specify in our database string? What do we specify in our database string? We're gonna keep going over this until we get it. Database, right. So in the hierarchy of MongoDB, we have clusters, we have databases, we have collections, and we have documents. And so we have specified our database name, and we have now just built a document, but we are missing a rung in that ladder, right? We are missing a piece of that hierarchy. We are missing the collection. And so right here, right now, this is where we specify which collection these documents are going to go into. Now, like I said, our construction worker, our model, is pretty smart. And so if we don't tell it a specific collection, it will make one for us. Because again, smart construction worker, resourceful person, going to go ahead and just make a collection for us. And what it will do is it will make a collection that is the plural of its own name. And Leon mentioned this, last night, how I can do fun things with plurals. We talked about octopus and moose and geese and all those things. But in general, if I don't specify a collection name, which this is just the model name, right? So a collection name, if we wanted to specify it, would be actually a third argument here. We could say my collection name. And it would honor that. I don't know if it would honor the whole thing. There might be a character limit. Um, but you might say, like, collection. And it would say, oh yeah, the construction worker would be like, thanks, buddy. You gave me a collection name. It's called collection. That's cool with me. But if we don't specify it, it will take the model name and make it plural. So what's the collection name going to be in this case? What will our collection be called? Posts. Yeah, just that simple. The model is called post. We didn't specify a name, so the collection name is just posts with an S. Yeah. Okay. So I know I spent a lot of time on that, but we got to know these relationships. We got to know how these components of MongoDB work together, and which parts of our database we're setting up where, right? What are we doing when and where? And that's because that's important when you're trying to build your own backend. Now it clicked that Leon was talking about the model name turning plural for the collections. Yeah, that's exactly what he was talking about last night. Yep. Okay, so with all that being said, let's remember what we were looking at before. So we were looking at the controllers, and the controllers made a reference to the post model, which then made a reference to the post schema to get the structure for the documents, right? And so in this case, let's see, we were at, I need to remember which controller we were in. Not post, get profile, yeah. So in this case, it referenced the post model, which grabbed the post schema to get the appropriate document format. We aren't posting anything, we're not loading anything into the database here, but it's able to use that to know which collection to hit. In this case, we're essentially saying, hey, Mongoose, go up to the posts collection. That's how it knows where to look. A lot of folks were asking about that. They're like, well, how does it know what collection to look in? Well, the model knows. It's going to look in the post collection. So look in the post collection, find all the posts related to this user. So we can just create the database, but the two models we make, PostGIS and UserJS, will create our collection. Yeah. And you don't, and last one, you don't even have to create the database yourself. Just having it in the collection string will do that for you. Having it in the connection string will do that for you. All this is automatic. You don't have to build anything manually in MongoDB Atlas. I love that realization. You're not the first one that's had that realization, including me. Yeah, if you wanted to connect to a specific collection, if you wanted to connect to one that already exists, you could specify the collection name inside of your model, and it would connect to that collection. Yeah. Yep. We're just linking things together, right? That's all we're doing. Linking things together. And Mongoose is very smart. And so if a component doesn't exist, it will build one for you. Now, this can come back and bite you. Like I mentioned before, if you don't specify a database name in your collection string, I keep saying that, in your connection string, it will create one for you called test. And so your data may not end up where you expect. Yep. And so just pay attention to where you're telling Mongoose to send your data, and you should be fine. Does the const equals post need to be the same as the collection name? Here? Are you talking about this? I just want to make sure I understand the question. That would be useful when we were doing our group app. Tons of trash in the database from testing. Yeah. Line 7. Oh, okay. No, that doesn't need to be the same as your collection name. It's just a variable. It can be whatever you want it to be. So because we're already referencing the model here, we're awaiting the find. And so what gets assigned to this variable here is just what comes back from the database. So It's already been found. You probably want to name it something that makes sense, but it can be named whatever you want. All right, and now what we're doing here is finally, finally, we get to render that profile page long after it was, we started this route a long time ago, right? And now finally, we get to render it. But what are we doing here? We're not just rendering it, right? We're rendering it and we're doing something else. What is all this? What are we doing here? Yeah, we're passing data. We're passing the data that we retrieved from the database about the user's posts. We grabbed that data out of the database, we stored it in a variable, and now we're just sending that data down into our view. Right, exactly. Yeah, this is where you get lost post. Yeah, all this is just an object that contains the data about that user's post that we got back from the database. It's just bundling up all that data into an object so that the view can use it. Yeah. Is it the collection? No. Yeah, no. This is all the database has already been hit. We've hit the database, and this is just regular old data now. We're pulling it down, we're pulling it back, we're bundling it up, and we're sending it down to the view. Yeah. So the view can then render that as HTML. Yeah. But we have this second thing here, user. So post makes sense, right? We hit the database, we grab a bunch of data related to posts. Fine. But we have all this user stuff here. And look very closely about just this part right here that I've highlighted. What do we think might be happening here? What do we think might be happening here? Look very closely at this. Yeah, sure, we're getting the information about the user, but where is it coming from? Because we didn't have two database calls here. We didn't hit the database again. We didn't hit the user schema or the user model. So where is the data coming from? Yeah, like DevQuest says, it's coming from the request, right? Remember how we console logged? Remember how we console logged all that stuff from the request earlier? I still have it. It's right here. Yeah, all of this stuff. We didn't have to hit the database twice because all of that information was already in the request. Yeah. So this comes from the database, all the users' posts. This just comes from the request. It came all the way up. It's kind of funny. It came all the way up, and we're sending it all the way back down. But that's okay. It doesn't cost us anything. And since two views can't talk directly to each other, they have to go through a controller, right? Thinking about MVC structure, two views can't talk directly to each other. They always go through a controller. That's just what's happening here. We're getting some data coming up in the request. We're adding some additional data to it, and we're sending it down to another view. That's all it is. All right. So we're rendering profile.ejs, and if there's any errors, we're console logging. Okay. So all of that rigmarole just for this one action. Boop. All that. And it all works perfectly, right? So we're doing all those things we talked about before. We're making sure the user is logged in using middleware. We're passing a bunch of information up to our controllers through a request that has a crap ton of stuff in it, including information about the session, which being, it's being added by our session middleware. We have information about the user, which is being added by Passport. We're validating whether the user is logged in using that information. And then we are hitting the database using our posts model to grab all of the posts associated with that user. And we're getting the user information, such as their username and email, from the request. And then finally, last thing, we're actually able to render the page. Wow, that's a lot just to do this. But in the end, because we have everything organized in sequence, it all just goes off like clockwork, right? Everything in order. That was easy. Yeah, I'm not trying to make it hard. I'm just trying to show how all these components work together, right? We have our middleware, which runs in sequence, and things have to happen in order, right? So we have to get the information from Passport before we can determine whether the user is logged in. And then finally, we have to have the user information so that we can hit the database, get the data back, and then finally render the view. And that's why it's important, especially at this stage, to really just make use of the templates that we've been given, right? Don't be trying to memorize this and code it from scratch, because there's so much that needs to happen in order for the app to function properly, that just use the template and modify it in small ways to get it to do what you want, to change the look, to change the feel. Because yeah, there's a lot going on here. Don't crush yourself by trying to do all this stuff from scratch. No worries, Gasava. My $100 project still has to dos in it. That's fine. I think this code actually does. Does this code does? I think at one point this code did. I think Leon fixed it, but yeah, yeah, Floyd. Well, I actually don't know too much about authentication or cookies or any of that stuff. I'm probably not the best person to speak to it. Maybe Leon will talk more about it. But yeah, I don't know enough about it to be able to really explain it to you. I just know that it works. I use Passport and it does what I want it to do. That's about all I care about at this point. Legacy code, yeah. Leon does use his own templates. I'm sure you've seen it by now. He takes his previous template and he adds some stuff to it and then turns it into a new template. That's all he does. Because he's smart like that, right? I thought we covered it and missed it. No, we didn't. Don't worry. It's a feature, not a bug. Yeah, I think that's a pretty good basic explanation. The session module generates a cookie. Yep. Hey, thank you for the follow, Frafra. Yeah. Okay, so we're gonna take a break. Just because I can hear my dog outside the door. He wants food. So um, we'll take a break here, and when we come back, we're gonna trace. Now we're gonna get into the good part. So what we covered before is not really different than anything we've seen previously, right? Looking at routes, looking at the database, looking at authentication. That's pretty standard. It's stuff we've seen before. Now, when we get back, we're going to follow the route that a post takes, that a new post takes, and an image takes when we when we create a new post. What happens? What players are involved? We're going to follow that route all the way up and down and see what it takes to get on this wonderful wall of fame with all of these masterpieces of art. Okay? So this time we're only going to take a 5-minute break. You don't get another 20 minutes. That's an interesting question, Curtis. So I think you can answer that question for yourself. So during the break or after the break, I don't want to take away from your break time, but during the break, maybe revisit the post schema. Remember, we looked at the post schema before? So go to post.js, look at the post schema, and see if you can determine whether or not you need to have a photo in order for the post to succeed. See if you can figure that out. A little homework for you. Okay. All right. 5 minutes on the clock. I'm going to feed my dog. I can hear him. And feel free to go get a drink, use the restroom, whatever you need. And I'll see you all back here in 5. Thank you for the follow, Mickey Mouse. Thank you for the follow, Zealot and Fra Fra. All right. See you back here shortly. Hey, folks, come on back. Sorry, I missed the reminder there. All right, I'm going to go ahead and stop the timer. Okay. So, camera back on. And my dog, my dog went to the vet early today and he's a little discombobulated. So you might hear him panting. He's under the desk right now. So, all right. Let me minimize this. Okay, I'm going to let him out of the room. He seems to want to go out. So, 1 second. Okay, we're back. Yep. So, Curtis, if you're trying to figure out where to look in the. Okay, he's back. All right. Look in the post controller, right? We looked at the schema before. So look at the post controller. So we'll look at that. Okay, that's fine. So we can see that there's something here called image, right? So we would think that maybe image could be something that might be something that might relate to the photo that we upload, right? So what do you think here might specify whether or not you need to have an image in place in the document in order for it to post it to the database? Do we see something in here that might look like it's enforcing some kind of a rule? Oh, sorry, did I say controller? Sorry. That was a misstep on my part. My bad. Yeah, require true, right? Oh, I'm so sorry, Curtis. I misled you. I'm so sorry. Hope you can forgive that. Yes, require true. Yeah, exactly. Didn't mean to say controller. I meant the model. Yeah. That's why, terminology is hard, right? That's why we keep going over it because everybody makes mistakes. Yep. But it's the model. We're going to require, it's in the schema, right? We're in the schema. We're going to require the image and it won't post without it. And that's actually what we're going to look at here in a minute. We're going to look and see how a new post might make its way up to the database. But why would we not allow the caption with or without the photo? Well, that's up to you. That may be something that you're like, nah, man, I don't feel like we need captions. And so you could change that. That that could be a setting that you change. You need to make sure that your view, maybe isn't expecting that, or maybe you have like some kind of a value that you pass if maybe your controller looks and sees if there is a caption, and if there isn't, maybe it passes a default value instead, like no caption, to make sure that your view has what it needs in order to render properly. So yeah, you can modify it, absolutely. Yeah. Okay, so let's look and see how a post, whoops, too far. Let's look and see how a post gets uploaded. So just looking at this, we have some components here, right, that we fill out. We looked at those already. We see title, caption, and image. What does this look like? What type of a component, what type of an HTML component does this look like? Just this whole thing. If we had to guess, what is this? Hey, Blip. Thank you for the sub, Blip. Spend those Bezos bucks. Absolutely. We gotta, so if you didn't know, if y'all didn't know, every time you subscribe to any streamer, it doesn't have to be me, anytime you sub to any streamer with your Prime sub, you stop Jeff Bezos from gathering up a bunch of billionaires and shooting them up into space on a rocket. So for every streamer you sub to using Prime, you are delaying Jeff Bezos going back to space by like several seconds at a time. And so that's a good thing, by the way. We don't want Jeff to get to space. So let's stop Jeff from getting to space. Subscribe to your favorite streamer using your Prime sub. You don't got to spend your own money. And thank you for the sub blip. No, I will not repeat the last 2 hours. However, the VODs have got your back. If you have Prime, it's free. Yeah, you're taking that Prime money out of Jeff's hands. It doesn't come from nowhere, right? Because those Prime subs, they pay out to the streamer. So if you're not putting money into the system, that money is coming out of Bezos's pockets. I like to think that he pays them out personally. I know he doesn't, but yeah. And so anyway, are we sure shooting a bunch of billionaires up on a rocket is a bad idea? Well, so another approach you could have is, maybe we're reducing the amount of money they have to get back down, as as Rezan says. Yeah. Yeah. Or maybe they just won't have enough money to get back down. Who knows? I'm not advocating for anything. We're just spitballing. How is Jean Luc Picard finally going to get to space? Well, in the Federation, so deep Star Trek lore here. By the time of Picard, money actually does not exist. Yeah, there is no concept of money in the Federation. So other species such as the Ferengi, they obviously have money. They have latinum, but yeah, the Federation does not deal in currency by Picard's time. So there you go. Oh, it's in your wife's name. Yeah, no, yeah. Yeah, I'm not saying sub to me. I'm just saying use your Prime sub on any streamer, and stop Jeff Bezos from getting to space. Is that the First Contact movie? Yeah, wait, yeah, you nailed it. Good job. That's exactly where that came from. Hoping for the Star Trek timeline. Me too. Just hoping without all the the nastiness that happens before we get the Federation. If you do a little research on the Star Trek timeline, it gets pretty gnarly in the mid 20th, 21st century. So we'll see. Okay. Can't wait for barter only life. Yeah. Uh, okay. So when we add a post, and several of you answered the question correctly earlier, several of you did answer the question correctly. This is most likely a form, right? Because we have these individual components that work together, and when we click submit, we want all of those components to get bundled up and be sent up to our controllers at the same time, right? We want all these to happen at the same time. All the information goes up, and it all gets sent together. That's why we became as software engineers, so we can afford caves to hide in. Yeah, I want my cave to have a candle. Okay, so we fill these out. We click submit. Now, something that we haven't really seen before is this button right here, which allows us to click and upload a file, which is kind of neat, right? I click this and it opens up a separate window that has, it like navigates to, I don't know, I forget which folder it goes to by default. But anyway, it brings up File Explorer. You can navigate to a folder, choose an image, and it will populate it right here inside of this box. And we saw that earlier when I submitted this cool frog, awesome froggy. And then we already talked about this too, is what happens once I submit an image or once I submit a post is the screen refreshes, the form boxes are cleared, and my new post appears down here at the end of the list. And earlier we kind of said a few of the things that we thought should happen in order to facilitate that, right? Well, for one thing, the page refreshes. So there's a refresh in there somewhere. The information gets sent up. Something is written to the database, and then something's written to both Cloudinary and MongoDB, right? Because again, Cloudinary is where our images are hosted, and there's just a link to them in MongoDB. So they get written and then reread. All that information is read back down into our view, right? It's sent back down to the view so we can see the most recent post. Okay, so we kind of talked through that earlier before, but I just wanted to do a quick refresher. So let's look and see how that actually happens in the code itself. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and start from the place where we ended, which was inside of our views, we were looking at the profile page. So when we left off, that was the last thing that had rendered, right? We rendered the profile page and we passed it in all the user information and all the user posts. So now we're going to go down a different route, starting at the profile page. All right, so again, we have our header. We're calling in our partial from our partials folder, which contains all of our header information. So we don't have to keep copying and pasting that stuff over and over again. And here we can also see that we're rendering our user's name and their email. We also have a logout button, which has its own route for logout, but that's not the route we're going to be following. We're going to be following the add a post route. So for here, we have a form. And in this case, we have an action. So instead of an anchor tag, which we saw before, we have an action, but this should be fairly familiar if you used forms before. So essentially what that action means is just whenever somebody sends the form, this is the route that's going to be hit. So in this case, our route is post/create post. Now this next thing is not something we've seen before. So we have an enc type of multi-part slash form dash data. Okay. So we don't have to know exactly what that means, but just keep it in mind. So we have this new form component that we haven't seen before, this new form property called enc type multi-part form data. Okay. And then we have a method. Well, then we have a method of post, right? Because we are writing something new to the database, so our method is post. Now, why am I not using method override here? We talked a bunch earlier about method override and how it lets you set exactly the method that you want. So why am I not using it here? Why do I just say method equals post? Why am I not using method override? Yeah, because it's what I want, right? And forms handle posts by default. Like that's just a thing that they can do, right? It's already a post, so we don't need to override it. And forms know what posts are. Yeah, exactly. Now, if we were trying to do, let's say, a put request, which you will also see in this app, if we were trying to do a put request, then yeah, we would have to use method override because forms don't know what puts are. Okay. So now we have our input boxes. Each of them has labels. We have an input for the title. We have an input for the caption. And then the third one is a bit different. Again, we have an input, but the type is different. The type is file. So there's actually a type of input box that allows you to select files, which is pretty freaking cool. What happens if we change the method and the tag to put? The form will not know what that is. You have to use method override. That's literally not like encoded into the spec for forms. They don't know what a put is. They can't do it. You would get an error. I forget what the error is. I'm sure I've gotten it before. But sorry, my dog is literally under my feet right now. He's just all discombobulated. The vet visit just messed him up. Dog cam. Yeah, I do want to show him to you at some point. Maybe not tonight. He's kind of a mess, but he's fine. He's just anxious. But yeah, so we have a new input type called file, and we're given an ID of image upload. And what that allows us to do is select a file and upload it. Yeah, my dog actually likes the vet, so I don't know. They gave him some sunflower butter instead of peanut butter, and I think his tummy might be. I think his tummy didn't like the sunflower butter, so. Um, and so finally, we close out our form just like usual, and we submit it. He's always there for nail nipping. Yeah, yeah. It's hard with dogs that don't like the vet and then have problems. Yeah. Oh, yeah. So in the end, our form has multiple components. We have a title, we have a text box. Actually, it's a text area, which is a larger text box. And then we have an input box with a type of file that allows us to select a file from our directory. Okay. All right. So that's really the only part of this we're going to worry about. The other part is really just, again, getting some posts, looping through them, and displaying the posts. Right, we're grabbing the post for that specific user. For us, the one the one that belongs to the profile, we're grabbing their posts, we're looping through them, and we're listing them out. So just like we did on the main feed, except these posts are limited to the user itself. And we already saw in our previous route, we already saw exactly where those posts come from. Right, we do a query on the database by the user ID, we grab those posts and we display them. Okay, but let's focus on this form and where it goes. So we see that we have a route here. Oh, thank you for the follow, True PPSG. Um, we have a route here called post / create post. Okay, so again, where is the first? What is listening for this submit? Where is the first place this data is going to go? Where is the first place the data goes? All right, so we got one person saying server and one person saying router. Notice I said the first place where the data goes. We have somebody else saying controller. Ooh, we got a trifecta. All right, so think about it this way. What is the only component that we know of? What is the only component in our app that is listening, that literally has a method that listens for something to happen? What is always listening? Yeah, the server, right. The server is listening. Again, let's look at that again. Literally listening. Look at that. Look at that. We got a method. We got a method. Oops, it's hidden there. We've got a method that literally says app.listen. That ain't just a word. It's listening for stuff to happen. Yeah. Yep, we are literally listening for stuff to happen. And that stuff, so once that form gets submitted, our server is listening for it, and it's going to be the first to touch that data and figure out where it goes. Yep. Okay, so again, let me just go back here real quick. Profile. All right, so our route is /post / create post. Okay, so it hits the server first, and we've set up two routes for which the server is listening. So with that in mind, our route is /post / create post. So which of these two main routes or post routes will our data travel to? Which one of these is going to be used? Main routes or post routes based on the path? Yeah, post routes. Exactly. Yep. And it might seem obvious here. You might be like, why are you even asking? Well, because you might encounter more complex apps which have more of these that could be potential paths. And so it's important to think about, okay, wait, where is this actually going? You got to trace the route. You got to figure out where it's actually going. Yep. All right, so we're going to go to post routes. And again, we can figure out what post routes is by looking up top here and saying, oh, okay, so post routes, we're requiring /routes /posts, okay? /routes /posts. All right, let's look in there. Leo, I want to be you when I grow up. You can be me right now, my friend. Yeah, just just keep learning, right? Like that's all we do. That's all I do. Just keep learning. Don't ever think that you know everything, and always be willing to learn from others. And you'll have a lot more fun that way. And then also, if you can, be willing to teach others too. You don't have to be a streamer. There's more than one way to teach. You don't have to be a streamer. You could help on Discord. You could help on coding forums. There's tons of different ways to help. Okay, so our path was post slash create post. All right, so that clearly matches up with this one, right? Create post. And we can see that it's a post request that's being passed. Still grinding on the programming stuff. That's fine. You just make it seem so easy. I make it seem easy, but you'd be surprised at how last minute I am sometimes. Part of it is just, I don't know, just not just being willing to just kind of put it out there and try stuff, right? Okay, so we have a post request here, hitting create post. But just like we did with ensure auth, we have something different in the middle, right? We have something different in the middle here. So before we can execute our method, we have this upload dot single file. Huh. Okay. So, I mean, I guess it seems self-explanatory, right? We're doing some kind of an upload of a single file. Okay. So what do we think this is for? What do we think this is? What do we think this might be doing? Before we're going to look at it, but what do we think it might be doing? I make it seem easy, but that's only because I put it together the last minute with these. I'm a man, I'm a master procrastinator. Y'all don't even know. It's something I'm working on. Yeah, it's for the image, right? We uploaded a file, we uploaded an image file, but just us putting it into the form isn't actually going to do the upload, right? We actually have to do the upload and get it up, actually physically upload it from our computer into our app. Yeah. All right. So yeah. So let's figure out what's doing this. Let's figure out what's doing this. So upload. Well, we have a variable up here called upload, and it says require middleware slash Multer. Okay. All right. So very clearly, this is referencing Multer. Just like you said there, DevQuest. Yeah. File is the image. Yeah. Yep. So we only uploaded one thing, right? And that was our image. So now we have to process that. Yeah. Because the form can handle everything else by itself. That's what forms do. That's what forms do. Forms just take in a title. They take in text all day long. They can do that all day, every day. But when we're actually trying to upload a file from our computer, from our computer, that's a different ball game. The form needs some help in order to do that successfully. So let's bring in Multer and see if we can get some help. Okay. So we have an export here, Multer. Leon referenced this briefly, just saying multer.disk storage, not specifying any disk storage here. Yeah, we're not storing files on our local system, right? We're storing them in Cloudinary. So we aren't specifying anything here. We're setting a filter on the files, and we're getting the path. Oh, Zuma Lifeguard, thank you for the follow. We're getting the path. And what do we think we're doing here? What do you think is happening here? Hey, true CSS master race representative here. No idea what you guys are working on, but I'll eventually catch up. Yeah, absolutely you will. 100%. The CSS ain't easy either. I'm not good at it. Yeah. We're checking to make sure it's an image, right? Because technically I could load anything I wanted. I could load anything I want. I could upload anything I wanted. I could upload a docx. I could upload a malicious SQL script maybe. I could try to inject something via that upload. That's kind of dangerous, right? And so we want to do some validation and make sure that we're getting the files that we expect and nothing else. So yeah, I mean, I could inject some SQL code, right? But here we're preventing that. And so what we're doing here is we're just checking for the file type, and then inside of our router, we're not only checking for the file type, we're also using sorry, I gotta get back to where I was. Post. We're also using a method, a Multer method, to upload that single file and store it until we're ready to write it to Cloudinary, till we can send it to Cloudinary and get it hosted there. Do it for science. I ain't no criminal. Yeah. Yep. So we're doing a couple things here. We're holding the upload and we're making sure it's an image. So that's very vital. And then finally, we're able to go to the controller and actually start building the post and writing it to the database. So let's see how we do that. So yeah, we don't have to know every single thing that Multer can do or anything like that. Just know that Multer is what's helping us facilitate that image upload so that we can actually get it all the way up to Cloudinary. All right, so controller, we're looking for a method called create post. Okay. So create post. Here's our method. And look at the first thing we're doing here. The first thing we're doing here is we have an await. Like SQL injection isn't relevant here since we aren't even dealing with SQL databases, right? Yeah, but I mean, if you have a complex enough app, there could be opportunities, you know, along the way, right? Maybe some middleware that you're touching that could deal with SQL. There could be, you know, or maybe the app doesn't, maybe the back end doesn't deal with SQL, but maybe something on the front end does. You know, there could be opportunities, you know, not in this particular app necessarily, but um, I I mean I've never done it before, but I know that SQL injection is a pretty common thing that a lot of malicious actors will try, right? Yeah, the larger the app, the more possible cracks. Exactly. Because you're going to have systems that are interfacing with each other. You're going to have apps that are talking to each other and sending data back and forth that may have different backends. Yeah, you could have a bunch of middleware talking to each other. And so you never know. Work with user input and they will find a way. Yes, absolutely. So whenever you can sanitize your input, like we just did there in Multer, right? We used Multer to make sure that we were actually getting an image. So and we're also we're also doing that enforcement in MongoDB, right? We're specifying certain data types. You can do that. You can specify length and other things like that in Mongo as well. So the more of that stuff you can control, the better off you'll be. Sanitizing, yeah. Okay, so we're creating a post. Oh, sorry. First off, we're awaiting cloudinary.uploader.upload. Oh, Leo the Amigo, thank you so much for the sub. Thank you. I really appreciate it. Thank you, Leo. I hope you're enjoying the stream. All right, so cloudinary.uploader.upload. Now rec.file.path. Okay, so that clearly says that this data is being passed up from the form, right? It's being bundled up with the rest of the data from the form. We have a path. Now, what do we think that this path consists of? What do we think we mean by path? If we're uploading an image if I'm uploading an image from my computer, what do we think path means? Yeah, it's the location of the file, right? Yep, it's the location of the file wherever it's been saved. And in this case, since Multer is since we're using Multer to help facilitate this, yeah, like Rascal said, Multer is going to save it in a temp file, and then we're just going to grab it out of that temp file. And if you really wanted to see the path, you could always console log the path. You could just console log rec.file.path and see where that's being stored, just for funsies. Again, that's another thing. There's so much data in the request, right? So much. There's information about the session. There's information about the user. There's information about the file. It's really wild. So in this case, that information we're telling Cloudinary exactly where to grab it, and Cloudinary just does the work, which is pretty neat. So we are requiring Cloudinary. So let's just take a quick peek and see. All right, we're telling Cloudinary to just upload, which is pretty cool that we can do that. But let's see how we're facilitating that. Because remember, Cloudinary is a data storage, a database storage like MongoDB, right? It's a data storage location. So let's take a quick peek and see how we're connecting with Cloudinary, so that it knows where it's putting this file that we've given it. All right, so we have middleware, Cloudinary. So let's look at our middleware in our Cloudinary and see what we're doing here. All right, so we're requiring Cloudinary v2, ooh, fancy. And here we're looking at our env file. And why would we do that? Well, because we put all of our secrets inside of our env file, right? And all we have to do to connect to Cloudinary, it's amazingly simple. It's so cool. All we have to do to connect to Cloudinary is just say, hey, Cloudinary, here's my cloud name, here's my API key, and here's my secret key. And then Cloudinary is just like, all right, I got you. There's nothing complex here. We're just telling Cloudinary where to put this stuff and then exporting that so we can reference it. So all that stuff that Cloudinary can do, all we got to do is just fill that out and Cloudinary does the rest. Easy peasy indeed, right? It sounds complex on the surface, like, ooh, we're hosting our images and then we're, referencing them elsewhere. No, it's just all we got to do to hit up Cloudinary is just this, cloudinary.config. Cool. Okay. So we've checked that out. Now let's go back to our controller. Oh, buddy, hey. Sorry, my dog is trying to go under the desk, and I'm worried he's going to bump into my computer tower. Bud, can you back up, please? Hey. Okay, fine. Whatever. Do whatever he wants. He's just standing there right now. I'm crossing my fingers he doesn't bump into my tower and knock it over. You'll know if he does. The documentation is way better from when I last used it in 2017. Oh, that's good. You always love it when documentation gets better. Okay. All right, I'm going to go back to my controller. All right, so all we're doing here is we're just saying, hey, Cloudinary, upload this thing that I've given you, please. And Cloudinary's like, yeah, bro, I got you. Cool. That's all that is. Easy peasy, as you said. All right, so we've uploaded it. Neato. That's only half of what we have to do, right? We have to host the image, but now we have to actually create the data in the database that we're going to be reading from, right? So here we see another call, await post.create. Now, what are we contacting here? When we say post.create, is this Cloudinary? Are we contacting Cloudinary again? Because we just did here, right? We said Cloudinary upload this file. So, but what are we talking to here? Yeah, we're talking to Mongo, right? We've done the Cloudinary, we've got it uploaded. Awesome. Now we're talking to Mongo, right? And what are we referencing when we say post? What are we referencing when we say post? Just like before. Yeah, we're referencing the model, the Mongoose model that we made. We made a Mongoose model called post, and we're referencing it here to create a new post this time. Last time we referenced it to get something out of that collection, right? Because our post model knows what collection we are saving our posts in. And so by referencing it, we can say, all right, Mongoose, go straight up to the post collection and, grab something for me. Now, in this case, we're doing the opposite. We're building something. I'm sorry. Come on, bud. Come on, get out of there, please. Hey, bud, come on. Back up carefully. Okay, thank you. Sorry. It's being a dingus. All right. So here we're doing the opposite. We're adding something to the database. Troublemaker. I know he is. Okay. So here we're adding something to the database. And now all we need to do, all we need to do is specify each of the components that we're passing in to the model. We're specifying all the components that we're passing into the model. And then that model is our construction worker, our engineer, is going to pick that all that up, pass it through our schema, and build a document with it. Hey, Jackman, welcome. Welcome to the stream. You just began 100 devs. So my advice, if you're just starting out in 100 devs, definitely post on the Discord. So you can do !Leon. If you're not already on the Discord, you can do !Leon and go to the Discord and join the catch-up crew. Those are folks that are just starting now, and they're at all different stages in the course. And my other recommendation would be to start from the beginning, right? Don't rush yourself, especially if you're new to coding. Don't rush yourself. Start at the beginning, watch the first class, do the classes in order, and don't skip. That would be my recommendation. You're going to want to go fast. Sonic got to go fast. But watch the classes in order because they are structured in such a way to help build your learning slowly and incrementally and make sure you really understand the material. So that's my recommendation. Up to you whether you follow it. But you can do !Leon in chat, and that gives you all the links that you need. I'm sure you probably have some of those, but gives you a link to the website, to the to the Twitch, and to the Discord. So best of luck to you. No worries, Jackman. Yeah, you're welcome to stay on for this stream, but if you're just starting out, it might be a little bit much. Your time might be better spent going and watching, starting at class 1 and from Leon on Leon's YouTube channel, and going on from there, and also joining the catch-up crew on Discord. Exactly. The class structure is really well laid out. So the first assignments are about learning how to learn so you can better teach yourself. And I think they're really, really worthwhile. Hey, Peter, thank you for the follow. Okay. So we were just talking about how we reference our post model to create our document, right? And here, all we're doing is we're just telling our model, we're telling our construction worker what materials they have to work with. So here, the materials that they have to work with are our title, our image, our Cloudinary ID, our caption, our likes, and our user. So, okay, this makes sense, right? We're getting the title from the form. Somebody filled out a form, they put in a title. Fair enough. The image is a little bit different. So this is our image here. This is result.secure URL. So where do we think this is coming from? Result.secure URL. Just trying to get through the reading material, taking a break. Yeah, definitely take breaks. Do what you got to do. Where's that coming from? Result.secure URL. Yeah, it's coming from Cloudinary, right? It's coming from Cloudinary because we already talked to Cloudinary. And so we did an upload, and then it sent back some information. And in that information that we got back was the URL to the thing that we just uploaded, right? So we uploaded it, and then Cloudinary said, all right, I'm done with the upload, hosting this now for you, thank you. And it said, all right, I'm going to give you some stuff. I'm going to give you like your receipt. I'm going to give you the URL. I'm going to give you some other information. And so we're using that here. We're saying, all right, secure URL. We're also grabbing the Cloudinary ID. And then we're going back to the form again and grabbing the caption from the form, setting our default likes to 0, and grabbing the user ID from the request. Yeah. And so what's interesting here is that we're getting information from 3 different sources, right? We're getting information from the form. We're getting information from Cloudinary, information from the form again. Here we're manually putting in some information. And then this is actually 4 sources, right? And this is actually coming from from what Passport is giving us. So we've got form data here, cloudinary data here, manually entered data here, and middleware data here. Pretty wild. But all of this can be combined together to build a single document. So we just pass that into our model. It already knows what collection it's associated with it. It has the blueprint, it has the schema. It can build that document no problem and send it right up to the database. There's nothing else that we have to do. Does that make sense what we're doing here? Where we're getting all of this? It's pretty wild what's happening. We're consolidating data from a bunch of different sources, turning it into one single document, and loading that up to our database. It's super wild if you think about it, what's happening there. All right. Well, if you think of questions, feel free to ask at any point. Okay. After that, we just have a console log confirming that the post has been added. And then we have a redirect, which essentially is just going to reload the page. And we've actually already seen, we've already followed this route, right? And so we know that one component of this route is to hit up the database and grab all the posts associated with the user, right? And so now, since we've uploaded this new document, it will grab this too, and it will show all of the posts by that user, including the one we just submitted. So pretty freaking cool. And so what I think is interesting here is that, we aren't just doing a res.render, we're actually doing a redirect to a brand new route, right? Because we want to grab that fresh data. So we don't want to just re-render what we already have. We want to make sure that we're grabbing the fresh data from the document that we just uploaded to our database. Okay. And real quick, let's pop over to MongoDB and let's look at a document for a post that's already been created. Just to see what that looks like. All right. So in posts, let's look at a document. So here we have, let's just look at the first one. It's called, so here, the first thing we have here is our object ID. So I don't remember seeing that in the schema. Where did that come from? That wasn't in our schema. Where did that come from? Yeah, the object ID comes from MongoDB. That actually rhymes, doesn't it? Object ID comes from MongoDB. Yeah, so this is auto-generated. Whenever a new document is written to the database, MongoDB automatically assigns it an ID. Yeah. And we have a title, which this comes from our form. And then we have our image URL. And that is what Cloudinary gave us after we uploaded it, right? That's what Cloudinary gave us. So we were just able to, that's not something we had to come up with, right? Cloudinary uploaded our images and said, thank you, come again, and gave us this URL. And also it gave us this Cloudinary ID. And that is pretty much equivalent to the MongoDB object ID. So again, it's just a unique identifier attached to that image that allows you to always get the right image, right? So you can think of the Cloudinary ID just like the MongoDB ID. It is unique. It will not be duplicated. You can always make sure you get the right image this way. Okay. And then we have the caption, which came from the form. We have 0 likes, which is coded by default. And then we have the user. So again, this is another object ID that links this post to the user in the user's collection. So those two are tied together and we can reference them together. And then finally, we just have the created at date, which basically all that really does is it helps make sure the posts are in the right order on the feed. Glad you like my rhyming skills. Ref user, yeah, this exactly. If you recall that ref user, that's ref user. Yeah. Yeah, it's helping us link those two collections together. So the Cloudinary ID is the ID that Cloudinary creates for the image. Yeah. It's just like the MongoDB object ID. So in general, no matter what database you're using, whether it's a relational database or a NoSQL database, MongoDB, whatever, in best practice is to have some kind of unique identifier for each entry in your data. So in a relational database, in a SQL database, you would probably have some kind of a unique ID for each row of your table, whether that's intrinsic to the data, such as, like, for example, maybe a unique course ID. If I'm dealing with student data, might be a unique student barcode. Or if there is not an ID that's inherent to the data, then maybe you auto generate one, just to make sure that you can always reference a specific record if you need it. Now, that doesn't hold true 100% of the time, but best practice is to definitely have some kind of unique identifier on your data. And so no matter what type of database you work with, understanding the concept of unique IDs is really important. Just in general, knowing that their purpose is to reference unique entries in the database, and that they are truly unique. Yeah. Oh, dog just bumped the desk. Okay, so yeah, the Cloudinary ID is coming from Cloudinary. The user ID is coming from MongoDB. Yeah. Oh, and I understand the question. Okay, so where is the Cloudinary ID being used? So yeah, D-Rocks basically nailed it. So if we decide we want to delete an image later, we really, if anytime we're deleting something, anytime you're deleting anything from a database, you want to be 110% sure that you are deleting the right thing. If you have, nobody likes to delete something from a database, but if you have to delete something, you got to be sure you're deleting the right thing. And so in this case, we can use the Cloudinary ID to make sure that we are 100% only going to get that specific item and nothing else. Yeah. Piece of Shoot says, you need to be super duper 100% sure that you are deleting the right thing. Yeah. I do not like deleting things from the databases that I work with, and it's something that we very rarely do. Um, Usually we will just deactivate things, but in this case, we do have the ability to delete, and so we want to make sure that we're deleting the right thing. Yeah, and so couldn't you just use the URL? Maybe, but this Cloudinary ID right here, that is guaranteed unique, never duplicated. So if I had the choice between something that was probably unique and then something that was 100% unique and that I knew for sure was unique, I would use the unique thing. I would use a sure bet, right? You want to be sure. Okay, and D-Rock says, and Cloudinary wants the ID for deleting anyway, which is probably, it's best practice anyway. So I'm glad that Cloudinary enforces that it requires the ID. Yeah. Cloudinary doesn't want you to doesn't want you to be out there fooling around just deleting willy nilly. They want certain things from you first. Okay. So yeah, so we write to the database and then we essentially just reload the page and then we render our profile. Yeah. All right, buddy, come on, come on. Thank you. I really like that they provide unique names for the uploads. One less thing I have to take care of. Yeah. And like I said, you'll see that a lot in databases. No matter what type of database you're working with, whether it's MongoDB or Cloudinary or a SQL database, what you will see a lot is unique identifiers of some kind. And in in SQL databases or in relational databases, those are often called primary keys, um, which are the thing that you can use to link to identify that data and potentially link it to other data in other locations, which is what we're doing here, right? We're using this primary key. So we're using the user primary key to link to our post as a foreign key. So you don't have to know what those terms mean. Just, just know that they serve the same purpose, whether you're working with a SQL database or a NoSQL database or a Cloudinary database. It's all the same. So you just need to know what they're for. Yeah. Okay. And so really, all the post data is just stored here. It's combining that data from all different sources, storing it here. And then, yeah, if we were to delete the data, it could use the Cloudinary ID to delete the information from Cloudinary as well. Okay. And then in the end, we just redirect back to the profile and to the profile route and re-render the data. I really like that they provide, okay, are you using a big web framework? Really all we're using here is free tools. So we're using JavaScript. We're coding in VS Code. We're using JavaScript with Node and Express. We're using MongoDB Atlas for our backend. So for our data storage, we're using MongoDB Atlas, which is free. There's a free tier. We're using Cloudinary for image hosting. And is that what you're asking about, Leo? Because yeah, all these tools are free, so you could build your own stuff if you wanted to. Oh, does anybody know what the VO is? So the V:0, in the property in the document, as Rascal said, it prevents you from getting a document, something else modifying that exact document, then you trying to do something with an outdated version of the document. Yeah, so essentially that V is just a version number. So making sure that you don't accidentally grab the wrong version of a document when it's already been touched by something else. Yeah. Thank you for the follow there, Prey. Okay, good. I'm glad I answered your question. All right. So that was really the main things that I wanted to cover tonight. I didn't want to get too deep in the weeds on this app because Leon is still actively going through it, right? We're going to be talking about it more. You don't got to understand everything now. But what I wanted to touch on is how these routes, these seemingly simple routes, right? Starting from the feed, going to our profile page, submitting a post, that kind of thing. How these simple enough routes combine all these different components and middleware and storage solutions and that kind of thing, how they all work together pretty seamlessly to deliver this multimedia content and modify this multimedia content. So, and I'm sure we'll talk about that more, I don't know if it's, I guess not. Yeah, to talk about more tomorrow, and then I think more of the super review on Sunday. So I think we're going to have plenty more times to cover this. But is there anything else anybody wanted me to cover or talk about tonight? This is practically a sprint of a stream for me. Adding the comments is still the homework, right? Yes. I believe that's what Leon is going to be covering tomorrow, from what I gathered. Um, commenting is tomorrow. Yeah. How are the kittens doing? They're doing great. Yes. Yes, the kittens are doing great. My dog keeps trying to go under my desk. Move, buddy. Come on, go somewhere else, please. Thank you. Go somewhere else. All right. Yeah, no, the kittens are doing really great. One of them is actually at the shelter right now, just for a little bit of monitoring. She had a little bit of an upset tummy. But the other two are still hanging around. If Patricia is still on stream, they might have left by now. If Patricia is still on stream, I wanted to bring up the kitten that she had named, but I think Patricia might be off for the night. Well, that's all right. We'll have plenty more chances to show off kittens. I do have a stable diffusion image to generate though. So for Ryan, is Ryan still on? Ryan Hawkins, are you still here? Because they claimed a stable diffusion from channel points. Again, we have a brand new channel point reward for if you want to spend 5,000 points, you can have me generate an AI image, which is the same thing that generated all these images here. You can have an AI generated image made specifically for you with whatever prompt you would like. So we had a claim for that earlier. I don't know if Ryan is still around. Leo asked, did you have formal education or was it self-learned? So I was already a SQL dev, but I did teach myself as far as being like a SQL dev. I learned everything on the job. I didn't have a CS degree. I didn't have anything like that. My college education did not have really anything to do with computers. So self-taught as far as SQL goes on the job, I guess, taught by many skillful people that I worked with. And then as far as coding goes, everything that I've just talked about here for you, Leo, this is all from 100 Devs, which is the free training program on Twitch that we are pretty much most of us here on this stream that we are all taking together. So if you're interested in participating in that, you can do !Leon in chat. Here, I'll do that for you. And yeah, I mean it's all free. That's where I've learned everything that we're talking about right now. Is just yeah through 100 devs. Your viewpoint sort. Well, it looks like DevQuest just claimed create an AI generated image, so we can do that for you there, DevQuest, and we'll do Ryan's image generation when they're on at the next stream. So don't let me forget to do that for Ryan. Makes me feel confident. I would be, yeah, absolutely. You can be good, Leo, 100%. Anybody can learn to code. Absolutely anyone. If you're able to learn how to learn and apply yourself and follow Leon's methods, you can do it, and you can do it for free. You shouldn't have to. Education should be free, and that's a major tenet of 100 Devs, is that education should be free. You should not have to pay to learn. So that's a huge part of this, and that's why I love it so much. Oh, Ryan, you're here. Okay, we're going to do 2 image generations then. All right, we got one for DevQuest and we've got one for Ryan. So we'll do Ryan's first since they claimed theirs first. You start learning React in your current bootcamp next week? Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. And feel free to tune into 100 Devs if you ever feel like you need a little bit more, to supplement your current bootcamp too. All right. Feel like it's so far ahead of where I am and I'll need to wait until the next cohort. No, there's actually in the Discord, in the 100 Devs Discord, we have something called the Catch Up Crew. And that's folks that are starting right now, today, that are working together to catch up on the material. So you've got a family there if you want to check it out. Okay, so let's get Stable Diffusion up and running here. And we can see the result of one of the previous images that I generated, which is a stained glass window of a frog. And I just like this one because he looks so sassy. So Ryan, your free education, woohoo, what a message I hear once I open the stream. Yeah, that's a message we should all be broadcasting far and wide, is that you should not have to drop 10 grand on a boot camp or whatever. No shade to anyone that did and that got a good benefit out of it, definitely, but you shouldn't have to, right? That's the point. You should have a choice. And so if you choose, you should be able to pursue an education for free. So yeah. All right. So Ryan, your prompt was Iron Man dog. Was that right? I just want to make sure I get it right. Iron Man cat. Oh, I'm sorry. Iron Man cat. Okay. Twins, if you follow the link that is in the link cluster that was just above there in chat, that should link you directly to the Discord. Iron Man cat. Okay, so I'm going to flesh out this prompt just a little bit to try to Ryan, to try to get what we want here, because I think what you want is a cat in an Iron Man suit, right? I'm guessing that's kind of what you're going for. So what we might say is cat. Yeah, okay. Cat wearing let's see, armor uh, photo. What do you what style do you want? Do you want a painting? Do you want a photo? Do you want a line drawing? Do you want a sketch? Do you know do you want a stained glass like this is like a stained glass window? What style do you want? A sketch. Okay. I'm going to say pencil sketch. We'll see what we get. Yeah, with such short prompts, you can get anything. So I tried to flesh it out a little bit. We'll see what we get. It might be interesting. So I have cat wearing Iron Man armor, pencil sketch. I was thinking a cat doing a triathlon. See, that's the thing. If you aren't specific about the prompt, you might get that as well, or a mixture of the two, which can be really interesting. Um, but asks, is this Dolly? No, this is actually another image generation program which is free. Yeah, this bad boy is open source. You don't gotta pay. There's no credits. There's none of that nonsense. Dolly's got credits. Um, yeah, Stable Diffusion is free. Anybody can download it if you have enough RAM and enough graphics card. So you do need at least a 1080 series or like a 10 series NVIDIA graphics card. And I think I forget what the requirement is for RAM. There is a minimum requirement for RAM as well. Okay, cat wearing Iron Man armor pencil sketch. Let's see what we get. Bam, going. It does take a minute to spool up. Let's see what we get. So it's cooking. It does tend to go a little bit slower while I'm streaming because it's trying to use my graphics card for a couple different things. Yours is gonna break it. I'm interested to see what you choose there, DevQuest. Oh, Twism, I'm sorry that your phone number isn't working. Could you maybe generate like a Google phone number, like a Google Voice number, maybe, or a burner number that you could try instead? Because yeah, the Discord does have email and phone verification just to stop the bots from getting in. Um, the obvious solution is to get a dedicated second GPU just for Stable Diffusion. Yeah, it's going. It's going. We'll just give it a minute. Oh, uh, you can't use VoIP? Can't use VoIP? Oh, that sucks. They are cheat time for a 3080. Well, I mean, I have a 3070, so um, it goes pretty well. Still going. If it doesn't go, I might have to it's a little buggy, so if it doesn't work the first time, we might have to restart it, but we'll see. Because yeah, normally it goes a little faster than this. Come on, buddy. Oh, did you make the website from scratch? Which episode did you start this? No, I did not make this from scratch. The basic code for this app that not Stable Diffusion, but the app we were running earlier, the basic code for that app is from 100 Devs. It's a template, and we are just learning from it, following the routes, learning from it, learning how it's built, and then what we do is we take components of that and modify it to make our own products. Oh, there we go. It's generating now. Because my video is starting to hitch. So my video might freeze, um, but that's the price we pay. Yeah, it's chugging. Yeah, I'm going to reduce the frame rate on my camera. So 1 second. Okay, I backed my camera down to 30 FPS, so that should help. My lights are flickering. Still cooking. So is my sound lagging behind my video now, or is the whole stream chugging? Okay. Yeah, well, so it didn't actually lag the last stream. Yeah, and that's because I'm actually using some additional camera software to better control my video. Um, and so it didn't lag the last time because I wasn't using that middleware to sharpen and improve my video. So I might have to disable that middleware if it's hogging too many resources, which I think it might be, given how long this is taking. Okay. 1 second. I'm going to disable that additional camera software. Uno momento, por favor. Oh, sorry for the no audio. That was my fault. I was on mute. But yeah, should be better now. Video should be fixed. Yeah, should be able to hear me now. Good. Okay. Yeah, but that looks friggin' great. Look at the tail. Oh man, we got okay. We got three. We got two more redemptions now. Oh, that looks so good. Yeah, the tail shadow looks so good. Looks like GitHub cat. Yeah, and I will send you if you give me a like if you want me to send you these files on Discord. Um, I'm happy to do that if you just message me your Discord name. Um, so I mean, I think I can probably keep you all straight, but if you could just whisper me on Twitch, message me your Discord name and the prompt that you used. So Discord name and prompt, whisper me on Twitch, and I will send you these files if you would like them. That's up to you whether you want them or not. But I will send them to you if you want them. Looks like the Hulkbuster armor. I was just thinking the same thing. Yeah. Ooh, okay. That doesn't look like a cat, but it's still pretty cool. Yeah, it still looks badass, just not a cat. Yeah, it still looks good. Can't prove there aren't cat ears up there. Yeah. It is kind of funny how it cuts things off sometimes. There's a cat inside. Yeah, let's just assume. Okay, that's literally just Iron Man. Exactly. Dolly has the same cutoff issue. They added outcropping so you can say draw more of this pick. Yeah. So I haven't tried it yet, but Stable Diffusion, that's probably too small to see, but Stable Diffusion has a tileable option, so you can make tileable images that link into each other. So I haven't tried that yet either. First one is your favorite? Yeah, we can scroll back and look at that. Yeah, I think so too. I really like because the tail and the ears are just perfect. With this software, I can finally become a talented artist. Yeah, I kind of feel the same way. I'm not very good at drawing, but uh, but yeah, Stable Diffusion makes me feel like a much better artist than I actually am. I think we got one more that's still finishing up here. All right. Where's the last one? Oh, there we go. Okay. So these last few didn't really get the prompt, but these two I feel like are the best ones. So again, if you whisper me on Twitch, um, I will send you the files that you want. You can specify which ones you want, or I'll just send them all to you. Um, and just give me your Discord name on Whisper Me on Twitch. Give me your Discord name and the prompt that you used, so I can match the right prompt with the right person. I wonder if I could get a good logo out of this. Absolutely, I think you could. Yeah. Okay, so next up, the next person that requested a Stable Diffusion image was DevQuest. So, DevQuest, can you please give me your prompt again? I don't think I caught it the first time. Okay, thanks, Ryan. Winter nightscape with visible wireless signals represented as binary code. Okay, let's try it out. Winter nightscape with visible wireless signals represented as binary code. Yeah, let's see what we get. You never know. This one's interesting because it's fairly abstract. And so, yeah, these could be completely off the rails. You never know. So I like the abstract ones. They're pretty fun. All right, here we go. Still, theoretically, now that I've disabled my camera software, this should go a little faster. Because it didn't like that it didn't like me using my camera at 60 FPS, that's for sure. Yeah, and we didn't specify style either. We didn't say photorealistic or anything like that. So who knows what we'll get. All right, yeah, it's already on image 2, so it's going much faster this time. Don't need 60 FPS disc coding. I know, but the frames. Actually, I started using that software for the Lego stream because my stupid camera refused to autofocus on the Legos. So I had to manually focus the camera on the Legos. So that's why I was using third-party software, because my webcam did not understand the purpose of focusing on Legos when Legos are not a face. Thank you for the follow, Ledsy. Oh, wow. That's that's really cool actually. I dig that. Whoa. Trippy, man. Hippie trippy. Rascal, I haven't tried like any of the Unreal stuff. I did try. So one of the cooler prompts that I've done was a fractal. So I asked it to make me a fractal of a butterfly, and it was freaking cool. So if you don't know what a fractal is, it's like a mathematical image that repeats the same pattern but goes smaller and smaller. Um, oh yeah, you want to see the fractal? Yeah, we can see that. It's actually, I did have it posted. I had it posted on the social media app, but I can pull it up. Ooh, oh, that's cool too. That's cool too. I like that in a different way. It's more abstract, but it looks like an album cover. All right, I'm finding the fractal image. Yeah. So this was the fractal that I generated, um, with a butterfly fractal, and there's a few of them that are like that. So these were all from the same prompt set. So they all turned out pretty neat, just in different ways, right? And that one's cool too. It doesn't look like a butterfly, but it does look kind of tie dye. So they're all good in just in different ways. Yeah. So if you have a reasonably beefy graphics card, again, at least it needs to be, you need to have an NVIDIA, it needs to be an NVIDIA card, and at least an NVIDIA 10 series. You can you right now, you out there in Twitch land, you can download the NMKD Stable Diffusion GUI yourself and run and do all these things that I'm doing here. You don't need a 3000 series. As long as you have a 1000 series or higher, you can do it. It might take longer, um, but you do need an NVIDIA 10 series or higher. Yeah. So this looks cool too. It looks almost like a stadium. AMD sad. Nah. There is. Oh, that looks rad. All these look rad in like a different way. Like they're all different, but they all look like album covers. They all look like late 90s album covers for like Radiohead or something. Yeah, I agree, G Bounty. That would be a cool shirt. Yep. What tool did I use to uncompress the download? You mean unzip the folder? I just use the native the built-in unzipper on Windows. I didn't use any special tools. I just unzipped it and put it where I wanted it. Yeah. You don't even need WinRAR anymore. So with Windows 10 and Windows 11, I believe you can just use the built-in tools for that. I didn't use any third-party tools, no WinRAR, no 7-zip, none of that. It's all built into Windows 10 and 11 now. Yeah, so you do have to unzip it first. So make sure, so D-Rox, make sure you unzipped it, and then D-Rox, once you unzip it, look for an exe file. So you should have there should be an exe file in the folder. And also too, if you can't find it, I believe the website where you downloaded it, so you downloaded it from the website, um, it gives you instructions on which what the executable is. So the file name for the executable specifically, it gives you those instructions too. So how large of an image does it let you create? Well, so there is a resolution slider here. I have found that it is pretty buggy. So I haven't been able to really mess with resolution very much because it seems like it crashes the GUI if I do. So I want to mess with it more, but for now, the most stable resolution seems to be 512 by 512. Anything else, it might crash. Oh, Patricia, yeah. So you wanted to see Fig? Yes, we can definitely do that. I have one more. So here's what we'll do. I have one more prompt to generate, and so while we're waiting for that to generate, I will go get the kitten, bring the kitten back, and we can generate an image and see a kitten at the same time. How's that work? Okay, so for the last one for Lalo, what did you want your prompt to be, Lalo? Vote vote anime emo cat science smile emote red propaganda poster. Okay, that'll be a good one. Let's see it. So again, just like what these folks are giving me, if you too want to generate a very cool stable diffusion image, there's a channel points reward for that now. So feel free to cash that in whenever you like. All right, I'm gonna generate this. Gonna kick the dog out of the room, not literally, but get him out of here and go get the kitten. So, all right, we're gonna generate this bad boy. And while that's working, I'm gonna go on mute for just a second. One more stream and I should be able to. Yeah, there you go. All right, I'm gonna mute for just a second and go get the kitten. All right, and we're back. So we have a kitten and we have a very cute little poster. That's actually cool. I really like that poster. Yeah. Yep. So here's little Fig. Yeah. I don't know if you can you hear her? Yeah. There you go. You say something? You say something? You say something again. Come on, baby. Oh, I know you're such. She's purring too. She's purring constantly. She's super loud. Such a sweetie. How many pets do you have? I only have one. I have a dog. These are foster kittens for the Humane Society. So that I don't own them, but I raise them until they're old enough, and then they go back to the shelter and get adopted. Yeah. Hey, ship that code. You are correct. Ooh, I like that. I don't know what it is, but I like it. Oh man, Soapy Airport, you came over at a good time. We're just finishing up the stream today and we're doing a couple of fun things to wrap up. Feel free to catch the VOD if you want to see the content where we actually review the Leon social media app. What we're doing right now is we're fulfilling some channel points rewards that people have spent um, to generate an AI generated image. Um, so we had several of those. And then we're also showing off some foster kittens, which are also a channel point reward. I love your little meow, sweet pea. Yeah, you've got such a cute little voice. Yeah. So this is Fig, and she was named by Hatricia, who spent her channel points to name little Miss Fig. Yeah, darling. Yes, the kitten, you do not get it. If you spend the channel points, you don't physically get the kitten. That's true. Ooh, I like that one too. What a tiny baby. Yeah, so she is about 4.5 weeks old. Yeah. And she's chewing on my finger. Why are you chewing on my finger, sweet pea? What are you doing? Don't chew on my finger. No, I don't like that. She's purring the entire time she's doing it too. She's not angry or anything. She's just purring the whole time. I know. Little Fig is a good girl. This is the best stream ever. Kitties in code and cool extras. Yeah. That is a distinguished cat pick. Oh, look how cute. Look at that kitty. Look at that kitty, little Miss Fig. Yeah. That is a good one. I like it. Yeah, great color scheme too. Absolutely. Okay, well, that was the last one. Again, if you requested an image tonight and you want the files, I'm happy to give those to you, the image files themselves. Do feel free to just either message me on Discord directly or send me a whisper here on Twitch and remind me of which prompt you were so that I make sure I send the right files to the right people. So much appreciated. Anybody else want to claim a prompt tonight? Feel free to save up those points and claim it at any other time. Um, if nobody else has anything else, I think we'll go ahead and set up a raid and wrap up for the night. Yeah. Fig is super wiggly. Yeah, she's purring the whole time, so she's not like wanting me to put her down or anything. She's just purring and being a wiggle worm. Yeah. Oh, I know you're such a wiggle worm. Yes, you are. Yeah. All right. Have a great evening. Yes, absolutely. How about we go ahead and find someone to raid? What are you doing? Let's see if I can pull up the raid screen while I'm wrangling Miss Fig here too, who's also meowing in my ear. Yes, you're a good girl. No worries. I'm glad y'all enjoyed tonight. I'm glad we had a little fun. Stop chewing on me, sweetheart. Okay, we've got several choices tonight. We've got Freckled Science, we've got Team Vash, we've got Nick One. I'm thinking we are going to raid Freckled Science because they're always tons of fun. So to continue the nice fun vibe we've got going on here tonight, I'm thinking Freckled Science is an excellent choice. Fig is going to town, I know. All right, let's hit up Freckled Science. It looks like they're doing a tandem stream with somebody else today, so that should be interesting. So enjoy, send them good vibes. And I will see you all back. I don't know exactly when I'll be back. We have the super review on Sunday, so I don't know if there will be a Saturday stream. Just keep an eye out on Twitter. It may not be. I may not see you again. Probably won't see you again until next Wednesday. Um, but we shall see. I'll let you know if I decide I'm going to do something on Saturday. So I'll see you all back here again very shortly, and have a great night. Big says good night too. Yeah, say good night. There you go. Good girl. All right. See ya.